For them, they're 7 out of a playoff spot right now after the Reds lost today, and they're trying to avoid a sweep. The undermanned New York Mets have come into the nation's capital and taken the first 2 games of this series as we welcome you to Sunday Night Baseball on ESPN, presented by Taco Bell. The Washington Nationals, such a heavy preseason favorite. They won 98 games last year. They're 7 back of the Reds right now. It's not impossible. It's been done, and it's been done recently, but they're going to have to get on a winning streak, and soon. Hi, everybody, and welcome to Washington, D.C. Dan Schulman, Oral Hershiser, John Kruk with you on Sunday Night Baseball. Until the last couple of games, the Nationals had been playing well, and they'd been doing something they hadn't done all season, scoring a lot of runs.
Yeah, it's been trouble for him this year. Struggles with injuries, struggled with underproductive players. But this month they've gotten hot in the month of August, and it all has to do with 3 players. Bryce Harper, of course, has been fantastic his last 13 games. You see the 354 average. Jason Worth even better, 354 in 21 games, 6 homers. Ian Desmond's been there all year, probably their best offensive player this season, in my opinion, is Ian Desmond for this team. But they need the other guys to contribute, Dan, if they want to join the wild card party.
Along with us tonight is Buster Olney. And Buster, you spent a lot of time down in the Nationals clubhouse. What is the team feeling? What's the vibe you get down there about their chances?
Well, before we went in to speak with Davey Johnson today, a priest came out of the clubhouse. Maybe that's appropriate given that deficit in the wild card race. Davey Johnson said he's not going to speak with to his players about the situation. He said they're grown-ups. They know where they're at. They have 14 consecutive games coming up against the weakest teams in the National League East. So if a turnaround's going to happen, it really needs to start tonight. The 2011 St. Louis Cardinals, the 2011 Tampa Bay Rays could tell them, hey, it can be done.
They sure could. Thank you, Buster. Now, the New York Mets are playing the role of spoiler, and on the mound for them tonight is a guy coming off maybe his best start as a major leaguer in John Neese.
Yeah, John Neese is on a roll. Had 4 healthy starts after having a shoulder issue, but right now Terry Collins says this is the best he's ever seen him throw the ball. The cutter, the sinker, the changeup, they're all there. And you know what? The calendar turns to September. The Mets aren't playing for anything, but Jonathan Neese wants to be a stopper, wants to treat this like an October start that the Mets hope they get maybe in a couple years.
It is September. It is the beginning of the stretch run into baseball with so much on the line. The hunt for October is underway. The Nationals hoping to get into the race.
iShares by BlackRock. Hunt for October.
The capital, the district, the Beltway. Whatever its name, if you want to call Washington, D.C. home, you have to win. This city has cycles, thrives on constant change. They come, they go. You can promise change, you can buy votes. But in the nation's capital, great administrations are built from grassroots and always deliver the promise.
Are there enough days left on the calendar for the Nationals to make a run, or will the Mets continue to spoil the party here in the nation's capital? They've already taken the first two in this series. As we show you the Met lineup tonight, brought to you by Taco Bell. Daniel Murphy's got 11 hits in his last 5 games and is 5th in the National League in hits on the season. And because of injuries, some young players are getting a chance to now compete at the major league level, including the catcher of the future, who just has become the catcher of the present for the New York Mets in Travis d'Arnaud. On the mound tonight for the Nationals, Bulldog right-hander Ross Ollendorf.
And he's making a dent since he came back from the DL, throwing the ball well. A little old school delivery we're going to get to see tonight.
This is outside, ball 1. Ollendorf has pitched both as a reliever and a starter for the Nationals this year. Also spent some time on the DL, and there's that windup that Oro was mentioning. It is very unique, very unorthodox.
A little bit of the single pump as you go to take your step back and full arm swing.
Although as we see it again, you'll notice the ball's not in his bare hand when he does it. He reaches into the glove, then out, then back in to get the ball the second time.
Yeah, in the olden day they used to keep the ball in their hand, but with the camera angles and different things going on, he likes to have the ball hidden and then regrips as he gets back in there. But he just picked this up just to get some rhythm for himself, not really completely out of deception. He just feels like it gets him put together, and his whole delivery times up the upper half and the lower half.
Fouled off by the Mets leadoff hitter Eric Young Jr. 2-2 the count. Young, a speedster, 33 steals, 17 of them since the All-Star break. That leads the major leagues. He had a stolen base, 3 hits, a couple of RBIs in an 11-3 win for the Mets last night. They beat the Nationals 3-2 on Friday night. Had to fight it off, and it remains 2-2.
We saw 95 mile an hour from Ollendorf. He's old school in another way, not only the delivery, but he will change speeds on his fastball. He'll go 85 all the way up to 95, and he won't call it a changeup. It'll be just a little something off the fastball at different levels.
Takes something off there, and Young's all over it as he rips it into the right field corner and easily into second base with a leadoff double.
You can change speeds, but you still got to hit your location. That ball was up.
And you're going to have to explain to me the last pitch of the last pitch was 95 that Eweiss shanked over his own dugout, and now all of a sudden he throws him something that he speeds his bat up with. But you see it, he wanted to go down and away with the Earl, stayed up in the zone, middle in, and that's a pitch that luckily wasn't a power hitter up. It would be 1-0 right now.
I completely agree with you. Why speed his bat up and turn the whole field, give him a chance to hit a ball hard in fair territory when he was fisting off 95.
Now here's Daniel Murphy, number 2 hitter, second baseman, batting .282 on the season. And about as recognizable a name as you'll see in this Met lineup right now. David Wright's out with a hamstring injury. Ike Davis strained an oblique last night, unlikely to play again this season. They traded Marlon Byrd and John Buck. So Daniel Murphy's about as established a player really as they've got in their lineup. Fly ball driven deep left field. Young rounding third will come in to score easily on the double by Murphy, and the Mets have an early 1-0 lead.
Another up location for Ollendorf, and this ball is way up. Daniel Murphy really does a good job getting on top of this ball, gets his hands above it so the barrel flattens out and he's able to drive it to left center. You see this ball again misses location. I think the last 2 are not changeups off the fastball. I think they're actual changeup grips, kind of okay delivery, and didn't get okay results.
So back-to-back doubles for the Mets. 31st double of the season for Murphy. A 1-0 lead. 2 batters in. The batter now is Josh Satin, playing third base tonight. Satin called up from AAA in June, hit over 300 at AAA, and hitting almost 300 as a big leaguer. And again, with David Wright out, guys like Andrew Brown and Josh Satin, who have spent a lot of time in the minors this year. Not only are they in the majors now, they're hitting third on occasion in this Met lineup. And it makes you think, and we talked to him before the game, Terry Collins doesn't get a whole lot of acclaim around baseball because the Mets are not a winning team. But this is the third year in a row he's had an undermanned group. And they're competing. They're respectable.
They play hard for him. And this coaching staff has a lot of respect from the players. I'll tell you what, they're getting a lot of respect around baseball. Terry Collins has done an outstanding job. He is on the moment he wakes up in the morning to the moment he closes his eyelids at night.
The problem is, one night in winter ball, he didn't close his eyelids early enough for me. That's another story. But Oral, you said it perfect. They play hard for him, and he demands that of them, and they give it to him.
When we asked him about his team before the game, you didn't hear one negative, and you said they play hard. The clubhouse is great. They show up on time. He was wondering a little bit. They made some changes, both the injuries and the trades, and he was wondering how that would impact things in the clubhouse. But they haven't missed a beat in that department. And I guess as a manager of a team with the talent level that the Mets have, that's all you can ask for, is just to play hard every day. There's another drive. This one to deep right field. Worth going back and makes the catch just shy of the fence. Murphy will tag and come to third.
That's a great piece of hitting by Satin right there, just to be able to hit the ball the other way deep enough to get the runner over. You know, you talk about when Murphy was up with EY on second and 2 out and nobody out, you think, okay, he's going to try to pull a ball, but when you get a changeup up like that, you got to let it fly and take your chances. But right there, Satin did the job. You see how he's being rewarded by his teammates. That's no better feeling in the world when you've done something as a team player to help your team possibly get another run here.
She just missed a home run too, but he did get the runner over, and now an RBI opportunity for Lucas Duda. Infield is back this early in the game. Ground ball should score a run. Duda, another guy who spent some time in the minors, of course, at one point was considered maybe to be a big part of the Mets' future. Has some power, but struggled this year. Sent down, recalled, and now here he is hitting cleanup. Laces a ball into right center for a base hit. Knocked down by Worth. He'll hold Duda to a long single as Murphy trots home, and the Mets lead 2-0.
Lucas Duda has been out early, hitting early, even though he's hitting fourth, and the Mets are kind of calling it in the rest of the year. But they put an 11 spot on the Nats last night, and Duda, with his early work, rewards him with another line drive here tonight. He's been working on not kind of cruising towards the ball, staying back. Got his hands on top of this. Ohlendorf again makes a mistake up. We've figured it out that the Mets can hit the high one tonight, John.
High ball hitters.
What causes that, Earl? Why is he up on almost every pitch?
It looks like he's dropping his elbow a little bit, just kind of making mistakes, not finishing his pitches. The changeup, he's kind of pushed. That was a fastball.
But you, Dan, going back to the Mets for a second, when you said something about, Duda spent time in the minor leagues. Ike Davis, who's injured now, spent time in the minor leagues.
There's Travis d'Arnaud, double play ball to short. We'll have to get back to that story next half inning. It's a productive inning, though, for the Mets as they get 2 off Ross Ohlendorf and take an early lead. And in part by iShares by BlackRock. Visit iShares.com to learn more. And Reese's Peanut Butter Cups, the perfect combination of chocolate and peanut butter. And welcome back to the nation's capital. Dan Schulman, John Kruk, Oral Hershiser, Buster Olney. Sunday Night Baseball on ESPN2. The Nationals already down 2-0 as we go to the bottom of the first. No game, purely a must-win game at this point of the season. But boy, the Nationals have to get it going, and when they are going, Bryce Harper is often leading the way, and he's on a hot streak right now, statistically having a little bit better of a season than he did last year as a rookie. Another hot hitter, one of the hottest hitters in all of baseball the last 6 weeks or so, is Jason Worth, who missed some time with injuries earlier. And Ian Desmond doesn't get a lot of national attention as one of the game's better shortstops, but he should, has both power and speed, and has had a very good year for Washington. Left-hander John Neese is on the mound tonight for the Mets, as we mentioned off the top of the show, coming off maybe the best start of his major league career, a 3-hit shutout against the Phillies on Tuesday. And Bryce Harper is up into the leadoff spot. Denard Span's not in the lineup. Scott Hairston is, to get another right-handed bat in there, so that means Harper plays center, and Crucky, he leads off instead of hitting, say, third.
Well, and I think because of Jason Worth and because of Ian Desmond, they can afford to hit Bryce Harper at first. And plus, he's hot, Dan. He's getting on base. And you know Oral as well as anyone, that leadoff hitter gets on, it changes the whole complexion of what you want to do in that inning.
Yeah, especially when you have a leadoff hitter that has power that Bryce has. You have to come out of the bullpen, and your first batter of the game, you're not only worried about keeping him off the base, but also keeping him in the park.
Ryan Zimmerman batting third in the lineup tonight. Jason Worth fourth. The Nationals, again, until the last couple of days, had started to hit the ball much better the last 3-4 weeks or so. And Worth a big part of that. But have they dug themselves too deep of a hole? 7 games out as we enter the month of September. 7 back of the Reds for the second wild card spot. The Reds losing to Colorado earlier today. Drilled into left center, a solid base hit. And Harper, a long single to get it started in the bottom of the first.
Well, this is what Bryce Harper can bring to the table. He has that ability, and you see a big change in what he was doing last year with the leg kick, hitting off his front foot, the back foot coming off the ground. But this is a more calmer in the batter's box Bryce Harper, and he's letting that ball travel deeper instead of running out and getting to it. And against a lefty, that's a perfect approach. Try to shoot everything the other way, because a lot of lefties don't have that ability to come in on you.
Still just 20 years of age, turns 21 on October the 16th. Harper the lead at first. And he's now facing the second baseman, Anthony Rendon, more of a third baseman. Danny Espinosa struggling this year, didn't hit, down in the minors, not even a September call-up at this point. So Rendon, a young player with a lot of promise, getting a chance to play at the major league level, getting accustomed to second. They really like the bat. This will get out of play. Off again, 2-2 on Rendon.
Jonathan Neese digging himself back into this count after giving up the hit to Harper. Got to get the ball down also, like Ohlendorf. He's kind of living kind of mid-thigh right now, and he's making an adjustment. Get himself a double play ball.
And he strikes him out with a pitch up above the belt.
You're going to see two seamers from John. You're going to see the cutter, which he really loves, a changeup. But this is a high 91-mile-an-hour cutter. Look at the delivery, the leverage coming, the weight transfer from the back leg to the front leg. Does a nice, solid job. And this is a young man who had a scare a little earlier in the year, back in June. Had a partial tear of his rotator cuff that has healed up, went on the DL, but the last 4 starts has been very, very healthy and throwing the ball well.
Now Zimmerman with a ground ball to second. The tag for one. The throw in time for the inning-ending double play. As Harper ran into the tag there near second base, and the Mets turn it to end the inning. Nothing on the Nationals in the final game of the series. The Mets looking for a sweep. Ross Ollendorf hit hard in the top of the first. Back-to-back doubles to begin the game. A deep fly ball and then a base hit to score the second run. Faces Juan Lagares, the right fielder, to begin the second. Lagares, a terrific defensive outfielder, has 12 outfield assists, including one last night. That leads the National League, and he has not spent the full year in the majors. Reaches for one, pulls a ground ball to short for out number one. Let's go back to the bottom of the first, guys, and the double play ball off the bat of Ryan Zimmerman that ended the inning. And Bryce Harper with the play in front of him. I think we were all kind of expecting him to stop and to make Murphy come to him, which might have negated a double play.
Yeah, the first base coach goes through it when you get on base. Don't let the second baseman tag you, freeze on a line drive. You know, don't go too deep on a fly ball and get doubled up. And you know, Bryce right there looked like to me just put his head down and was running without not noticing where Murphy was or where the ball was. And it's not like, you know, you stop there, you think, okay, well, it's an easy out anyway, but it's not like you have Keith Hernandez playing first base and Wally Backman or Tim Tuffle playing second. You know, it's Daniel Murphy and Lucas Duda. So you got to take your chance on one of them might throw the ball away.
Been kind of an interesting weekend for Harper. He did not run out a ground ball that he hit Friday night in a key situation. Was frustrated by his inability to drive in a key run as this ball is crushed. Matt Dendecker rips one into the second deck in right center for his first major league home run. And man, is he going to remember that. That was no cheapie.
It was not wind dated, was it, Dan? Wow.
I think this is center cut low, but center cut right down the middle, just dropping some head on it, John.
Well, that's just looking for a pitch, getting it in your zone and not missing. That's all that is.
You think he's a low ball hitter?
Well, I think you know, Ollendorf been missing up. He might want to miss up the next inning against him.
Quintanilla rips a base hit into right, and they are tattooing Ollendorf here in the early going.
Wow, shocking.
And the usual, we'll pretend it didn't happen for a while. Let Dendecker, a guy who suffered a broken wrist in the spring, made a number of sensational diving catches in the spring for the Mets, but then had to rehab after the wrist injury. His reputation is very good defense, has power, which we just saw, strikes out more than they would like. But again, these are games, and the standings ultimately may not matter because the Mets are going to be out of it. But for guys like Darno and Dendecker, I mean, this is the beginning of their future, their major league future right now.
Well, it's what I was telling you, trying to get to the point earlier before they hit into the double play to end the inning, was when you have the threat of being sent down, you will work hard. You will perform as greatly as you can perform, because the last thing you want is to have to go back. And they, you know, look, and these young kids coming up, they did it to Lucas Duda. They did it to Ike Davis. I mean, Ike Davis has hit over 30 home runs in the big leagues. They send him down.
Ruben Tejada's still in the minors.
Ruben Tejada's still in the minor. You know, so you look at that, you think, wait a second, they can send those guys down. They surely can send me down if I don't prepare and play the right. Now, if they're struggling, that's part of the game. But if they're not preparing the right way, hustling the right way, working as hard as they should be, then that's when you get sent down. And Terry Collins understands that better than anyone.
Nice up to bunt and take strike 2.
Terry Collins has a player development background. He's the head of the player development system for the Los Angeles Dodgers. He knows what it's like to be a minor leaguer and be in charge of the minor leagues and want to get promoted to the big leagues.
Nice took that pitch right there because he probably wants to hit the way everyone else is hitting.
You saw he had a 3-run double in his last start Tuesday against the Phillies. He became the first pitcher in the majors to throw a 3-hit or better shutout and have a 3-run double in the same game since Brandon Webb did it for Arizona back in 2006. That's a good night's work for John Nice. Two runs in the first for the Mets. Another one here in the second on the first major league home run by Matt Dendecker, their center fielder, making just his 3rd big league start. Inside, 2 balls, 2 strikes on Nice.
Now he's got him right where he wants it. Nice. I mean, you got to feel like he's hot, right? He hit a 3-run double.
Yeah.
I mean, 1 hit for a pitcher in a game, they got to feel pretty good about themselves.
Oh boy, off the end of the bat, slow roller to short. The second one on to first, dug out nicely for the double play. But another run for the Mets. Matt Dendecker with a swing to remember. His first big league home run gives the Mets a 3-0 lead. At the bottom of the second inning of the Nationals, who have lost the first 2 games of this series to the Mets and who are just clinging to the slimmest of hopes. 7 back of the Reds for the second wild card spot. They find themselves down 3-0 already, as the Mets have hit Ross Ollendorf hard, and John Neese gave up a base hit but got a big double play ball off the bat of Ryan Zimmerman to end the bottom of the first. Jason Worth, the cleanup hitter for the Nationals, will lead off the second. The National League Player of the Month for July. He has been on a tear over the last couple of months. And just yesterday, missed some time with injuries earlier, so just yesterday he gathered enough plate appearances to now qualify for the batting lead in the National League. You saw there on that graphic. He is 4th in the NL in batting right now at .322, trailing Chris Johnson, Yadier Molina, and a Michael Kadire.
How deep he stands in the box. I mean, he's barely got his toe on the line, which is legal as long as some part of your foot is spikes are touching the line. And that to me is just a guy getting older, and he wants to wait a little bit longer, Dan. Or things are catching up to him. Yeah.
Been there, done
just
that?
little. Well, yeah, we all done it.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, every once in a while, especially this time of year, things, your bat starts slowing up a little bit. You talk about a lot of guys that go to a lighter bat as the season goes on. Well, maybe Jason Worth is to take a half step back in the batter's box a little bit, give himself just that split second more time.
I would wonder that deep in the box, and a guy who's about 6'5", 6'6", if he's come around on his backswing more than once, and maybe hit a catcher in the back of the head time and again this season.
Well, I'm sure that after his appearances on Duck Dynasty, I'm sure they have put. I'm sure the catchers are aware of where he stands and how long his arms are.
Yeah, trimmed it up tonight.
We appreciate that.
Tonight.
He's cleaned it up a little bit here later on in the season. That's his preseason shot that all the players do for all their games during the season, as he rips one into the seats third base side.
But we talk about pitchers getting closer to hitters when their drag line and their release point, and they can affect the velocity, the relative velocity to the hitter, and that for every foot is 3 miles an hour. So he moves back 6 inches. He's gaining a mile and a half. He's getting a little quicker.
Rocky, did you think about these things in those terms when you played?
Probably not. No.
I know he didn't, but he knows. But he knows that a fastball in seems quicker than a fastball away.
Yep. So every foot.
It depends on who's throwing it.
Every foot is 3 miles an hour.
Every foot is 3 miles an hour.
Yeah, I never.
So that's why some guys are sneaky fast, because they get farther down the mound on you before they release the ball.
Well, see, you learn something every day, Dan. I didn't know that.
As mentioned, he just has, as of yesterday, enough plate appearances to qualify for the batting title, and he's 4th in the National League right now. Johnson and Molina have gone back and forth a few times in the last couple of weeks. Kadire right there, and Alan Craig, 5th in the league in batting, had a big hit for the Cardinals today, drove in a couple of runs as St. Louis won the final game of that series against Pittsburgh. The Pirates had taken the first 2, so the Cardinals and Pirates are tied for the lead in the National League Central with 4 weeks to go.
Alan Craig's having some kind of year. Yep. Got about 98 RBIs now.
On the 10th pitch of the at-bat, Worth rips one into the left field corner. And he's got himself a double.
Well, this is a 3-0 pitch or 3-run lead pitch by Jonathan Neese that he just says, you know what? I'm not going to walk him. I'm not going to put guys on front in front of some of the power that's coming up. And that's just, I mean, that's Jason Worth right now, the way he's going. He's just free and easy. When you're as hot as he's been since the All-Star break, you know you can handle any pitch that Jonathan Neese throws, or any other pitcher for that matter. And when you do get the one you get, you don't want to miss it. And he didn't.
Now Ian Desmond, the shortstop. 20 homers, 34 doubles on the season. Some big numbers for a shortstop, and another one of the hot hitters right now for the Nationals. And sometimes when you think of the most productive shortstops in a baseball, this guy's name doesn't come to your mind as much as it should. Look at these numbers. I mean, he's right up there, as good as anybody.
And he's strong, and he hits the ball hard. And he just doesn't get a lot of notoriety.
And those aren't National League ranks.
No,
those are all of baseball.
And this has been a guy that, if the Nats had another good year like they had last year, and were supposed to, played the way they were supposed to play this year, he would have been a national name. They just have not accomplished the things that they set out to accomplish this year.
Fights it off. It remains 1-2.
Well, he's doing his darndest to try to hit a ground ball or hit a ball the other way to try to get work to set the third base. I think right now you might be setting Jonathan Neese up to forego that and try to turn on one, because it looks like Neese still wants to come inside on him to try to keep him from doing that. Desmond has that power. If he gets something middle in, it might want to tell him to turn it loose.
Curveball, and it's hit just foul. And that's a pitch that I know, Earl, you like when you watch Neese on tape, and Terry Collins likes that curveball too.
Yeah, that's a pitch that Jonathan Neese will say that he likes to use it when the other pitches aren't working, and I think it's a pitch he should use more because it's so good. It was a kind of a flatter one, maybe the tweener between the slider and the curveball right there. He's got more of a downer.
And he gets him with a cutter over the outside corner for his second strikeout of the game.
He's pitching him in, pitching him in, pitching him in, goes to off speed to get an out, possibly to the left side, to foul ground ball, and then he just completely locks him up on a ball away that Desmond does not expect, and he hit his spot.
Having to work hard this inning. A 10-pitch at bat to Worth, resulting in a double. And striking out Desmond, but having to use a number of pitches as Desmond fouled a few off. Now here's the catcher, Wilson Ramos. Ramos hitting .274, 9 homers on the season, hitting .438 in his career against the Mets. Neese for a strike.
Jonathan Neese looks like to me he's getting into a timing thing with Jason Worth on second base, and Jason Worth, not the base stealer he was, but he can still steal bases, and Neese gives him that one look go home, one look go home. Jason can time this and get on third base and do the job that Desmond couldn't get done.
High chopper, Neese, and plenty of time for the second out. Worth to third. ESPN's got you covered as the race to the postseason heats up. We've got a doubleheader for you on a Wednesday. The Tigers and the Red Sox at 7 Eastern on ESPN, and then the Rays and the Angels, brought to you by T-Mobile, at 10 Eastern on ESPN. Tampa Bay losing again to Oakland today, so they've made things a little bit more difficult for themselves. And then 1 week from tonight, we will be in Cincinnati as the Reds host the Dodgers. Sunday Night Baseball presented by Taco Bell. The Reds holding the second wild card spot right now in the National League. We're expecting to see Clayton Kershaw on the mound 1 week from tonight here on Sunday Night Baseball. And if the Nationals are to get really hot, it is the Reds they will likely try to chase down. They're 7 games back right now, as Cincinnati lost again today, and the Reds are 3.5 back of both the Cardinals and Pirates in the National League Central. Arizona losing today as well. And forgive me, I've been saying 7. It is 7 for the Nationals, 6 for the Diamondbacks right now in the National League wild card race. And we've seen teams in recent years, as recently as 2 years ago with the Cardinals and the Rays, who at this point of the season looked done. And of course the Cardinals won the World Series that year.
Not seeing a big collapse though by the Cardinals, the Reds, or the Pirates. Just just because they're probably going to be playing each other a lot, and they're going to have to play at the top of their game.
And they play each other. It means one team's going to get a win. The Nats are going to have to run the table.
The Nationals are in a stretch playing a whole string of games against sub-500 teams. They swept the Marlins, but now they've lost the first 2 of this series. And over the next couple of weeks, they'll continue to play only sub-500 teams from their own division, which means the Phillies, the Marlins, and the Mets. Can they take advantage? They get a run in here. A base hit up the middle for Tyler Moore. And it's 3-1. Moore comes up with a clutch 2-out single to bring in Jason Worth. And now Scott Hairston getting a start in left field as Moore and Hairston both getting in there as Davey Johnson wants as many right-handed bats in the lineup against Nice as he can find.
Scott Hairston not only wants to get a hit here, but he'd love to turn the lineup over for the Nats. The starting pitch in Ollendorf gives up 3 and they get 1 back. They chip away, and they'd love to have the next inning start with the top of their order with Harper swinging the bat outstanding.
Harper leading off, playing center tonight for the Nationals. Reached on a base hit his first time up. Hairston, 33 years of age. Into the right field corner and caught by Lagares to end the inning. 1 run for the Nationals, down 2 at the end of 2. Let's take a look now at our iShares by BlackRock. Hunt for October standings. As mentioned, as the guys were just telling you, the Pirates and Cardinals are now tied atop the National League Central after St. Louis salvaged the final game of that series. The Reds 3.5 out in the Central and 6 ahead of the Diamondbacks, 7 ahead of the Nationals in the National League wildcard race. And again, keep in mind how important it is for Pittsburgh and St. Louis to try to win that division, because whoever does not win that division is going to wind up in a one-game playoff. And we know just from last year, from the first year of the new playoff system, how much everybody wants to avoid that one-game playoff and at least get into a division series and get yourself 3 out of 5. Ooh, wow. Is it harder to get out of the way of a pitch when you're squaring to bunt than when you're just standing there?
Well, you'd have to ask someone who's bunted. I'm guessing yes, because look where he's moving. Eric Young Jr. is moving up towards the pitcher and up towards home plate. So yeah, that thing chases you in there.
It's called a low bridge.
I think he's got some quick reflexes. A changeup drops in there for a strike.
He's decided that the changeup is a really good pitch tonight if he can get it going, but it's taking him 3 runs to figure out how to get it going. I love his fastball at 95. He's just got to locate it better.
Chopper to short. 1 down.
Talk about Ohlendorf's location out there. You're giving up the 3 spot, and it's mainly because he's left the ball either in the middle of the plate or up to the hitters. Take a look at the K zone. Watch these locations that get hit. That ball's up in the middle, cut. This one is up to Murphy and away, and then Duda gets another one up in his eyes that he can hit. And then if he's going to keep it down, he's got to get it out of the middle of the plate. Got to use the corners. But I don't care if you throw it 95 or 88. You've got to locate it.
And it has been a rough beginning to the night for Ohlendorf. Murphy doubled in a run off him in the first. '31st double, 156th hit among the leaders in the National League in both of those departments. RBI number 64, and now 12 for his last 21. Ball's up again. It's hit hard again, but it's caught out in center by Harper.
They had a nice little collision in the bottom of the first inning when Harper didn't stop and turn back. But this is a great play by Bryce. Just keep running. You know that ball, more than likely with the lefty hitting, it's going to have a little hook to it, so it's going to run away from you. And Bryce just outran that one. Pretty good athlete right there, Dan.
Yep. And again, just 20.
Probably couldn't play on your basketball team, but
2 down in the inning, and here's Satin. Hit a fly ball to deep right field his first time up. Plays off the breaking ball down and away from Ohlendorf.
Yeah.
Up again. Ball 3. Up with the fastball a lot tonight.
How long does it normally take to make an adjustment when you can't get the ball down in the zone?
He should be able to get an adjustment, wait a little longer, and get the ball down. He seems to me like he's throwing the ball too early in his delivery. His front foot hits, and he immediately just starts throwing the ball. You can have your front foot hit and then continue to work down the hill, drive that ball down by the knees. It takes some strength and some discipline to wait. It's a little better. See, that should be a high pitch for him, though. Even though that ball's down for where he's throwing the ball tonight, that should be a high pitch. He should pitch from, 3 inches below the knee to an inch above the knee, and then when he wants to go up, go way up.
And another deep drive. Harper back again. Can't catch this one. And Satin into second base. That is the 4th extra base hit off Ohlendorf already.
As good a plays he made on the ball hit by Murphy. This is one where this ball didn't do anything and it stayed straight. You see Bryce get turned around a couple times and couldn't couldn't locate the ball after he got the one turn. Yeah, this is just a bad turn. This is when you have to do the 360 turn and find the wall and go back and get it. But either way, it would have been a tough catch up against the wall.
Just the 6th game this season, we should point out, where Bryce Harper's been the starter in center field. He's made 72 starts in left field, 16 in right, and now 6 in center this year. Is that a little bit more of an adjustment than sometimes we give it credit for?
Yeah, well, to me, center field's probably easier because the ball's in front of you than left. Even though it's in front of you, left and right, it doesn't hook as much or tail as much.
Lucas Duda had an RBI single his first time up.
But even though he did make the wrong turn on that ball, that still would have been I mean, they might have to readjust the web gems on baseball tonight. Kept Carl and Mulder there a little later, which I'm sure they would enjoy. Cutting that one again.
Down and in.
The thing about Bryce Harper is he's raised the bar so high for himself. He's done so much already in the game at 20 years old, and he's changing positions. He hasn't been out there, and so we're watching a young man still develop. But we hold him to high standards because he's accomplished so much so early.
Knocked down and onto the pitcher, covering in time. Rendon to Ollendorf to end the inning. We'll see Bryce Harper swing the bat. He's due up second in the bottom of the 3rd. By Taco Bell is brought to you by Guinness Black Lager. There's just something about black. Please enjoy responsibly. And Nivea Men Sensitive Shave Products. Bottom of the 3rd. Here at Nationals Park, Dane Schulman, John Kruk, Oral Hershiser, Buster Olney. Sunday Night Baseball presented by Taco Bell on ESPN2 with the Mets leading the Nationals 3-1. And it'll be the pitcher, Ross Ollendorf, who leads it off against Jonathan Neese. Or John Neese, he doesn't care. Whichever one you like, whichever one you're most comfortable with. Here's Ollendorf. 0 for 11 with 9 strikeouts this year.
And he swings at the first pitch over his head. Hello.
He's a Princeton grad, though.
It doesn't equate to baseball smart sometimes.
That's true.
If he'd have swung at that one, we're questioning his degree, too.
Slow roller to third. Wide throw, but the tag is applied by Duda to get Ollendorf.
I might want to look at that one again. I'm not sure he got him. You got a pitcher running who's not very fast. So why would you throw it off your 1 foot when you had time? And maybe he did get him. And from the naked eye, it didn't look like he got him, and that's not going to tell us anything.
Ollendorf didn't argue very much, so Duda evidently gave the tag on him. And back to the top of the order for Bryce Harper. Had a base hit his first time up.
And this is one of the things you look for with young players, what Terry Collins and the Mets are looking for. The baseball clock. He didn't have to throw off 1 foot and make a rush throw. He could have caught it, planted, and thrown, made a strong throw to Lucas Duda. Instead, he rushed it, threw it away, and Duda saved him.
Satin playing both infield corners for the Mets since his recall, and Terry Collins working a lot of young players into the lineup here late in the season.
He doesn't have much choice.
Yep. David Wright vowing to come back. Ike Davis likely not back. Marlon Byrd, John Buck traded.
So they probably won't be back either.
Doubtful. I think the Pirates are going to hold on to them. Pirates getting Justin Morneau yesterday as well in a deal. He started, went 1 for 3 for them today.
Pirates are loading up for October.
Seems like Davis spent some time in the minors, came back, was hitting better, but strained an oblique last night. As Harper lays off 3-1, but an interesting weekend for Bryce Harper. On Friday night, as we started to say earlier, before a double play ball into the inning, did not run out a ground ball late in the game. Frustrated he couldn't drive in a run. It was bobbled by Murphy. They still got the out because Harper wasn't running. And it became a big topic of conversation here in Washington. You're used to seeing Harper, give 100%. Didn't run this one out, but still was out even after the bobble. So last night, maybe trying to overcompensate a little bit, or maybe hearing what people were saying, down 8 or 9 runs late in the game with nobody out, tries to stretch a double into a triple, and it gets thrown out. So you've got one play where it didn't do enough, another play where he may have done too much. Again, keeping in mind he's 20 years old.
He's 20 years old, and we make those mistakes at whatever age we're at.
They'll only get one here.
But the over hustling is something you can be talked to about and tone it down. The not hustling is inexcusable. And I understand he's had a knee injury. And they probably told him, look, a routine grounder, tone it down, maybe go 75, 80%. You don't have to go 150%, but you still have to give it that 75, 80, and that was not 75% of Bryce Harper, what he did the other night.
I totally agree. Most 20-year-olds are doing this at A-ball, but he's learning up here. And I think that, he'll learn the different gears that he has to go, but he shouldn't go below second gear. It's either you're going to go hard or you're going to go in second gear, and after that, we have to leave the other gears alone.
There's some players who tend to do this every now and again throughout their whole careers, and you say, well, guy's just lazy sometimes. Bryce Harper's not lazy. That looked like frustration, not laziness.
Yeah, and that's the thing. He hasn't failed much in his young life on a baseball field.
Dendecker can't make the catch. Rendon around to third on the base hit by Zimmerman.
Ball was blistered.
He hit that one hard. But it looked like Dendecker to me was indecisive on, should I come in and try to catch it? Should I dive? Should I stay back? Oh, there's 2 out. So many things go through your head when that ball's coming at you in that split second. Should I dive? Should I try to keep it in front of me? Oh my gosh, what if I miss it? It gets past me. Now they're going to score a run. Zimmerman will be on third. So many things went through, and indecisiveness, that's youth. You get indecisive. You want to make the spectacular play when a backup played off the hop, first and second now. Now you got the hottest hitter up with first and third.
Jason Worth. Curveball for a strike. doubled after a 10-pitch at bat his first time up. Curveball at 77, a fastball at 93.
And that's what I love about the curveball. Neese would throw more of them because he just made a mistake there with a fastball. But because the curveball was in worse mind, he gets away with a larger group of mistakes with the fastball. And he did the same thing with Harper and threw a bad fastball to Harper. He just happened to start missing, but Harper was late too. He can throw a curveball right out of the same place that he just missed with that fastball and bounce it kind of down the middle. I think he'd have an excellent pitch, have a good chance of striking him out. Or getting him the line out.
Hot shot down to third on that curveball. Worth grounds out and the inning is over as the Nationals leave a couple of men on. Neese gets out of it.
It's easy. Not in politics, not in baseball.
And a swing and a drive.
The odds are stacked against you, DC.
It is a walk-off, game-winning homer.
You wouldn't have it any other way.
Well, they have certainly made their lives difficult this year. The Washington Nationals 7 out of a playoff spot. A playoff team last year, 98 wins, and it looked like they would be stronger this year with some of the additions they made in the offseason. But can they have a comeback for the ages? As recently as 2 years ago, both the Rays and Cardinals overcame even bigger deficits in the month of September to make the postseason. It has been done, but not often. Can the Nationals pull it off? They had won 8 of 9 until they lost the first 2 games of this series to the Mets. Just wonder where it's gone wrong. They've had some injuries, but a lot of teams have had injuries this year, significant ones. As Travis d'Arnaud hits the ball hard to right field, and a great catch by Jason Worth.
Great jump, great route, and still got some wheels to catch up with this one. This ball was smoked. Ohlendorf has given his outfielders a workout. Harper last inning and Worth this inning, and he gets the glove on it and gets it to stay in there.
The outfielders are getting a workout here in this game for the Nationals. As Wander Lagares skies one down the right field line out of play.
I'm really surprised Ohlendorf hasn't thrown more off-speed pitches. When you have such a young fastball hitting lineup, you really want to play with their emotions and play with their timing. A lot of times guys don't get up to the big leagues and make the jump from AAA to the big leagues because they're not very good at hitting the off-speed stuff.
There we go. Well, with the different pitches that he throws, we mentioned he's got the unusual windup, and the hand is not in the glove when he does the windup. He reaches into the glove as he's already on his way to the plate. How does he get the grip on the ball for the pitches so quick?
He places it the way he wants it, and so his hand goes in on the same angle and grabs the proper seams and the proper angle for him. It would be hard for me. I would like to feel the ball in my hand the whole time.
Yeah. So he sets it the first time and then re-grips it the second time.
Right about now, he'll put it in there. Oh, that's the way I want it, and then okay, there he's got his grip. Okay, now it's in there, and now there. He's going to come back to it right now.
Did you ever mess around with a delivery like this?
No. Ball's in the glove, and it's already been placed on the angle he wants it, which seams are there, and now he's grabbing it and getting the grip pressure, and now here he's coming.
That's all fine and dandy, but what if the catcher wants him to throw a particular pitch and makes him throw that pitch?
I don't think he's going to let the catcher tell him to throw any pitch. He's going to be telling the catcher what he's throwing. Just shake to it.
Maybe the first couple innings he might have thought about that.
Yeah, he should have thought the other way. I used to give signals to my catchers at times, what I wanted to throw.
I know.
Why, did you see them before I give them?
I'll look at the numbers. Oh, kidding. Oh, gosh.
Well, Ross Ohlendorf is certainly not the only guy with this kind of a windup. You used to see, and I mean way back, more pitchers do this kind of thing. Hall of Famer Dizzy Dean had an unusual windup, and get a load of this. Now that is beautiful. Satchel Paige. That is something else.
Satchel's got to get off his back leg there, get a little more acceleration.
Yeah, he's only won 900 games.
Only pitched into his 50s.
Yeah. I know. Yeah. Well, he had a bad shoulder right there. So.
I mean, it's unconventional, but if the pitcher's comfortable with it, you leave him alone, right?
The first thing I would tell him is you got to start hitting your spots better, not only tonight, but in general, because he has great arm speed. You can see that 95, but it's still up, and it gives the hitter a chance. And so not only do you look for a delivery that helps you deliver the ball, but I got to help that it hits your spots. Where's the 81-mile-an-hour curveball right now? The one that makes people swing and miss.
Elevated with a fastball again up above the zone, and it's going to be another extra base hit for the Mets. Lagares steams into second base with a double.
There you go. Ross Ohlendorf, I'll see if his infielders can catch one. That just, granted, it's 2-2. That's a pitch high up out of the strike zone, but it's a fastball in the center of the plate. Even if it's high, see how high Lagares' hands are. You can still get your hands on top of that ball.
And again, they're young hitters that would be anxious to put stats on the board and to hit, and you get ahead of them. Just make it look like a strike and end up a ball. Try a new theory.
Ohlendorf has now given up 7 hits through 3 1/3, 5 of them extra base hits, including the first major league home run for the man at the plate right now, Matt Dendecker. And it was a rocket. It found the second deck out in right center field.
And predictably, the first pitch was a changeup.
Second one was a fastball that Dendecker found back.
One of the hardest pitches for a pitcher to throw is that first pitch, the next at bat after a guy went deep on you. You say, okay, my ego says you can't hit it, I'll go again, or do you try and trick him?
But even if he's missing his spots badly, and I think I know what you're going to say here, but he's throwing 95, and they're still centering up so many pitches.
A big league hitter can time a bullet, and this doesn't have tremendous late movement. It's got high pattern movement to it. It's all about between 92 and 95 miles an hour, and it's up in their eyes. And you know, we talk about late movement all the time when a ball breaks late and breaks sharp. Well, the movement that he's getting is very slight, and it's up in the strike zone, and it's got a pattern to it. It's just kind of got a little tail to it, and it never really leaves the barrel of the bat. If you get the barrel squared up, it's going to be there.
On the appeal, he didn't go. And so he missed with a breaking ball. Does he come back with a fastball at 3-2? Ohlendorf well traveled with the Padres and Pirates the last couple of years, with an ERA close to 8 over those 2 years in the big leagues. Goes with a changeup, gets a ground ball to second. 2 down, a runner to third. Ohlendorf was with the Yankees way back when, was part of the Randy Johnson deal between the Yankees and the Diamondbacks, so he has bounced around. Ross Detweiler's a guy who would be in the rotation, but he's out with an injury right now, so Ohlendorf getting a chance to make some starts here. As we mentioned, has pitched out of the pen and in the rotation for Washington. And he needs to get Omar Quintanilla here to keep the Mets from adding to their lead here in the 4th inning. And all this is one of these spots, National League, number 8 hitter up, pitcher on deck. You going right after this guy?
I am. I'm going to try and get him out, extend the outing, make next inning be an easy inning. Having the pitcher lead off. And it's really interesting with the man on third and 2 out that he can't go to the old-fashioned pump windup right now because he might be afraid that that takes too long to deliver the ball. Somebody could steal home. You have that delivery that you say, this is for deception, plus makes me feel better as a pitcher, gives me better velocity, I pitch better, and then you've got an important guy to get out, and you pitch him from the stretch.
Swing and a miss with a 96-mile-an-hour fastball up above the zone.
There's a lot of things here tonight that I'd like to talk to him about. He went to Princeton. He's a smart guy. You'd think you'd be able to talk to him logically about philosophies about pitching and getting people out. I mean, most people at about 92 miles an hour down by the knees would say that's a better place to throw the ball than 95 and up. Love to talk to him about, you know, does he think he's a more effective pitcher from the stretch compared to the windup, and is there a way to wind up so when there's a man on third and 2 out, can you do something that's effective, more effective than pitching from the stretch?
I don't think he's at max effort every pitch. Shirt tail came out, he had to tuck it back in.
That's actually a great sign when pitcher's shirt tail comes out, because that means he's torquing between his shoulders and his hips, and
he's overthrowing.
Well, a little bit.
But would you talk to him about maybe making the ball move?
Yeah,
his
definitely.
fastball especially.
You got 95-mile-an-hour arm speed. You can use some of that to deflect the ball and spin it and make it really move. So you look at the grips, his release point, and try and figure out a way to make this thing really start darting, because he's got tremendous arm speed. Nice high 3/4 delivery. Get his hand on top of the ball, wait a little bit longer, and make that ball bite. He's just behind that and pushing that ball, and that thing is straight and hard.
Down east, the pitcher waiting on deck for the Mets. Mets up 3-1, top of the 4th, trying to sweep the series.
You got to change him up here. If you walk him, you walk him. You got John Neese coming up. Exactly. He's still not a bad hitter, but you don't throw another fastball.
He did, and got a foul back. Have you been watching Oral? Is Ohlendorf shaking to the fastball a lot, or was Ramos calling for the fastball?
No, they're on the same page as far as pitch selection. He hadn't shaken at all. Frustrating thing you hear in my voice is that there's so many tools out there on the mound, that there's something there to work with.
Breaking ball bounced down to first. Pitcher covering. Inning over. He had to work hard, but he gets out of it. To the bottom of the fourth, Nats coming up down a pair. Presented by Taco Bell. Nationals Park here in D.C. The Mets lead the Nationals 3-1. The Nats 7 back of the Reds. A game behind the Diamondbacks, who are 6 back of the Reds for the second and final wild card spot of the National League. Washington's got to get it going in a hurry as we have entered the month of September. And there's a broken bat base hit into right center field for Ian Desmond. And the leadoff man is aboard for the Nationals between innings. Our buster only with Mets manager Terry Collins.
Terry, Matt Dendecker with a home run, his 11th plate appearance in the big leagues. Is this going to be part of what he brings to the big leagues?
Well, we know one thing, Buster. He's got real good power. He's had power every place he's been in the minor leagues. And, you know, what we're trying to do is get consistent contact and get him to relax a little bit. But he's got great skills.
What are you seeing in John East tonight?
Well, you know, John really competes. And his last start was as good as he's had all year. And, you know, I know he wants that pitch back to Tyler Moore that he made, but, you know, he's going to pitch good. He works both sides of the plate. He's using his curveball tonight, so I think you're going to have a good outing.
Terry, thanks.
And John Neese has become a very important part of the Mets rotation. It's the rotation that the Mets feel will be the foundation of whatever success they have in the future. There's a base hit into right field for Ramos. First and second, nobody out for the Nationals. Of course, the Mets, and we don't know how serious it is yet, but they took a big blow this week with Matt Harvey and the news that he's got a partially torn UCL ulnar collateral ligament in his elbow. That could mean that he needs Tommy John surgery. All the results are not in yet. They've got to wait for the swelling to go down a little bit. But with Zach Wheeler, a young pitcher, Noah Syndergaard, who they picked up from Toronto in the R.A. Dickey deal, John Neese, and of course Harvey, that's supposed to be the strength of the future, which terrible news potentially for Matt Harvey.
Yeah, real terrible news. I mean, something that surprised everyone. He had a little forearm stiffness throughout the year at times, but nothing that made him feel like he had to shut it down.
Moore with a fly ball. Desmond will tag and come to third. Ramos stays at first.
Finally got to a point where the stiffness in his forearm was the fact that, you know, he was going to have to maybe move back or skip a start, and they said, well, we're going to have to give that news, then we better go in there and look at it. And that's when they found the partial tear.
And of course, Matt Harvey's been making news his entire season. He started the All-Star game. He was as good a pitcher with the possible exception of Clayton Kershaw, as there has been in baseball all season. But terrible news for Harvey, whose mechanics appear to be sound, and this is coming from you, not from me, obviously, or that, but he was feeling some stiffness in the forearm. They've had a look, and it looks like Tommy John surgery is a possibility, although Terry Collins was talking to Roy Halladay. Halladay asked how Harvey was when the Mets were playing the Phillies. Halladay told Terry Collins that he had the same thing at the end of the 2006 season, and that he didn't need surgery, that he strengthened the muscles around the elbow, and he has never needed Tommy John surgery. Terry Collins said, will you go talk to Matt Harvey? They talked for 15 minutes, and according to Terry Collins, Matt Harvey felt a whole lot better about things after his talk with Halladay. There's another base hit. Hairston bounces one into center field, and a run is in as Desmond scores to make it 3-2. And maybe a little bit encouraged by his talk with Halladay, Matt Harvey tweeted, I'll be back April 1st. So oral, and again, every tear is different, every pitcher is different. What are you thinking?
I like his optimistic thoughts, but if I'm in the organization and they have that second look and the second MRI comes back that thing is torn, I think he should get it fixed. That would be my opinion.
But does every pitcher have a little bit of?
Everybody does.
What is it?
Everybody has a little bit of wear and tear in there and a tear. But when they say that there's a tear, that's not fraying. That's a tear. So their doctors know, and they will. It's a rubber band in there, and it's a ligament that keeps your elbow together. And if that ligament starts to stretch or then start to break, that kind of stress on that area, it can definitely creep back up and break again.
We've seen it with Steven Strasburg. We've seen it with Dylan Bundy. We've seen it with Matt Harvey. Foul ball. And we live in an era now where just about every team is taking so much care of their young pitchers. Why is this happening so much?
I think you're only as strong as your weakest link. And that phrase is given to me by Tom House, who is a very good pitching coach. And if your rubber band breaks and you've got great arm speed, then that rubber band wasn't strong enough, and they got to put a better one in there. And sometimes it's in the rotator cuff muscles, and sometimes it's in your elbow. But it's real hard. You can't strengthen soft tissue. You can strengthen muscles, but you can't strengthen the connective stuff.
Do you think that the measures that are being taken by teams to protect young pitchers, not increasing your innings by more than 20% a year or 30 innings a year, whatever the case may be, do you think it's working?
I don't think it's working at all. I think the Verducci effect has been, it's been debunked. I think the young pitchers can be pitching, and if they get sore, then we've got to slow them down or shut them down. But I don't think we've come up with the exact formula on how to protect young pitchers.
But what is being done wrong? It seems like more young pitchers get hurt now than 30 years ago.
I'm not sure anything's being done wrong, other than maybe we're making the arm too strong at times, because if the arm gets stronger, now we throw harder, now the rubber band has to work better.
Duda will make the play unassisted to get Harper and end the inning. A run for the Nationals, and it's a 3-2 game now at the end of 4. Top of the fifth, between innings, Buster Olney with Nationals pitching coach Steve McCatty.
Steve, how come Ross Ollendorf is struggling in your eyes to keep the ball down tonight?
Well, Ross sometimes he tends to try and change velocity on his pitches. To me, you know, one time he'll throw a fastball 94 and then 188, and it's a little harder for me to really stay in control and locate the ball. To me, if you're throwing 96, you got to put a little more effort into it, and I think that's what he needs to do and finish over the front side and get the ball down. It would help him out quite a bit. You know, if you get behind, you can dead fish a guy, but I'd like to see him let the ball go a little bit and get into a good rhythm.
His spot in the order just came up. Did you guys kick it around at all, pinch hitting for him?
No, I know better than I don't even mention anything to Davey. If he wants to talk to me, we'll talk about it. But no, you know, he's got to go out there and pitch for us.
Steve, thanks.
You know, Steve McCatty, by the way, was a member of that 1981 Oakland A's team. Billy Martin was the manager. This was a strike-shortened season, so take into account these numbers. Steve McCatty started 22 games, completed 16 of them. Rick Langford started 24, completed 18. Mike Norris, 12 out of 23. Matt Keogh, 10 out of 19. It was a different time. Now, a lot of those guys broke down. But this kind of lends into the Matt Harvey. Those were more mature pitchers than Matt Harvey is at this point. But it's a problem in baseball when talents like Strasburg and Bundy and Harvey are losing a year this early in their career. And we always say, oh, they'll have Tommy John, they'll be back in a year. And most of the time that's true. But there's no guarantee. Look at Ryan Madson. We're 2 years and counting since Ryan Madson has pitched right now.
Some guys have complications. Some guys can make it back in 9, 10, 11 months.
You talked about guys getting strong, the relationship between maybe the muscles and the ligaments, that if a guy gets too big, the ligaments maybe just can't support that. And here's a ball ripped to deep right center field, a long run for Worth, and he won't get to this one. And John Neese, who had a 3-run double Tuesday against the Phillies, has a booming double to right center to begin the 5th inning.
You know, Dan, I just really believe that we get stronger, we get faster, we get better in the arm speed there. And if you can get your arm speed to a certain point where the wear and tear, you know, can hurt the connective tissue, you're going to break. And these guys that we're usually talking about are very, very hard throwers. And Matt Harvey has great mechanics and solid mechanics. Doesn't look like he puts any extra stress on his body, but he's torquing it in a big way because he's very, very strong.
When you came up mid-80s, was there ever any discussion that you recall about limiting innings? Was that even part of the vocabulary there?
It was barely coming into vogue to just start counting pitches, but limiting innings, no. If you could pitch and you were healthy and you could take the ball, you took the ball.
And I know a point that you want to make is 160 innings for this guy's not necessarily the same. Not all innings are equal.
No,
right?
Not all pitches are equal. Not all innings are equal. I'll tell you what, that there are pitches out there that come out of your hand real easy, and they can be 95 miles an hour with great movement and down by the knees. And there are balls you'll throw a shutout, and you feel like you worked and adjusted and strained your arm the whole night.
Is anything to the point where these guys throw so many different pitches now? You know, the cutter, the sinker, the two-seamer, the four-seamer, the this, the that, the split, the that, everything else. You know, pitchers throw so many pitches. You know, when I first came up, you saw, you know, Dwight Gooden and Nolan Ryan with fastball, curveball, and occasional changeup. You know, and they seem, you know, especially Nolan last till he's 46 or something. You know, every pitcher now comes up, he throws 97, but he has a great sinker.
Somehow Young gets that bunt down, and a fine play by Zimmerman.
Well, he's had his problems throwing the baseball, but not on these plays. This is the one he doesn't have to think. He doesn't have to react to anything. He just, I get it and go, and he throws underhand. Usually pretty strong and pretty accurate, and he's one of the best at this play in the big leagues right now.
That is not an easy play. It wasn't an easy bunt to get down, and then it was an excellent bunt. And boy, he just made a big league third base play. Little tip of the cap both ways.
Young's credited with a sacrifice, although it looked like he's bunting for a base hit on the play, but he will get a sacrifice, and then Daniel Murphy will get an RBI. His second of the night as he brings in Neese to make it 4-2. Back to young pitchers for a second. Do you think part of it may be, it feels like 13, 14, 15, 16-year-olds are playing way more baseball. There's more travel ball. They're playing 150 games instead of maybe playing 75 games back when you came up. Is that part of it?
A lot of wear and tear maybe before they even get here. Guys look back at college careers and see how guys were used in college before they got to the big leagues, and all of a sudden an arm surgery pops up at the big league level, and you just don't want to look at the major league organization. You have to look at the workload before that. But you know what? Terry Collins told us a story back when he was a Dodger player development director about he brought in all the Dodger doctors, pitching coaches, therapists, anybody who was associated with a young arm, and he had a 3-day conference, and they talked about how to put the workload together, the workout regimen, what should we do with pitch counts, what should we do with workload and time between starts, weight training, massage, all the different things that a pitcher could do. They did it for 3 days, and they came out of it and said, okay, that's a lot to decipher. Let's come up with a theory. And at the end of it, Dr. Frank Jobe, Hall of Fame doctor, put Tommy John surgery on the map, put me back together as far as putting my shoulder back together, said, Terry, if they're going to break, they're going to break.
And
that's scientific.
Well, it's just there's not enough evidence on any of it.
It's the truth.
We have theories, but we don't completely know. We have guys who throw with bad mechanics that pitch for 20 years, or what people think are bad mechanics, and we have guys that have perfect mechanics that are young and strong like Matt Harvey and are doing things off the chart record book wise, and they get hurt and they break. And the Mets did nothing wrong with Matt Harvey under today's theories.
It just seems like it's a battle to see who can look the best in a uniform, and granted, this is coming from a guy who looked awful in one, but
fly ball to right field, and Satin is retired 2 down. Buster, I know you can play off this a little bit.
Yeah, after Harvey's injury, he talked with officials with other teams, and one of them said to me, you know what, we got to start looking at this thing differently because we have no idea when these guys are going to get hurt. He said the only sure thing we know is we can control them for 6 years. Part of the reason why they've been protecting younger pitchers is for financial reasons, to protect their asset. Well, in talking with officials with other teams this week, they were pointing toward the Giants with their very aggressive use of Tim Lincecum, but they didn't worry about service time. They just called up the pitcher when they thought he was ready. And when you look back at his 6 years with the Giants, and they pitched him a lot, they got a ton of production out of him. They won 2 World Series. He won 2 Cy Young Awards. Turned out to be a great thing for the Giants. The same thing with Cole Hamels and the Phillies. They pitched him a lot in 2008. They won the World Series. They got a lot of value out of him. And in talking with officials with other teams, they're beginning to wonder if, you know what, maybe that's the way to go because we simply cannot predict injuries.
I think players and pitchers would be behind that theory.
Just let them play.
I don't think pitchers and players want people limited. I think they want to be smart about their own bodies and their training, but they want to be able to listen to their bodies, not just have somebody put a number on them.
Yeah, but now you have to recondition a lot of these kids who go out and, after 60 pitches, I have a stat that once he reaches 60 pitches, his batting average goes up to 290. Okay, now he's 60 pitches, he's done. You have to reprogram a lot of these guys, but guys don't rest anymore, Oral. You talk to players in the offseason, a week after the season, hey, what are you doing? Oh, I got to go work out. I got to go hit. I got to go throw. I got to go do. They don't relax. You play 162 games. You're in there. You start in mid. They start early February now in spring training. You're going every single day until, if you get deep in the playoffs, possibly to the end of October, and you don't rest.
Good play by Ohlendorf to get to it before it rolled foul. Shirttails come untucked again. He's working hard but not getting the results he's looking for as the Mets have added a run to their lead. lead the Nationals 4-2. Dick's Sporting Goods kickoff week continues tomorrow night as the Pitt Panthers are welcomed to the ACC by the defending conference champion Florida State Seminoles, led by redshirt freshman quarterback Jameis Winston. It'll be the Seminoles and the Panthers tomorrow night at 8 Eastern on ESPN. Sunday night baseball tonight here on ESPN2 with John Kruk, Oral Hershiser, Buster Olney. I'm Dane Shulman. And the Mets looking for a sweep and looking to deal the Nationals another blow in their slim hopes of getting back into the race. They had won 8 out of 9 before they lost the first 2 of this series. The Nats 7 back of the Reds for the second wild card spot. For Bryce Harper and company, this was supposed to be a continuation of last year. They won 98 games. They cruised to the NL East title. But then they were shocked in the 5th and deciding game of the division series against St. Louis. Gave up 4 in the 9th to lose that game. But it seemed there was a feeling around the Nationals that, hey, they're so young and they're so good that don't worry, they'll get back next year. Well, next year's this year. And this year hasn't worked out like they thought it would last year.
Not at all. And you know, I keep going back to you tempt fate. You tempt the baseball gods. You know, when you shut down your best pitcher, you know, into September, and you don't let him pitch in the postseason, and you get there, and it's the first time your organization has been there. I don't know, man.
Bet. The Nationals led Game 5 6-0 early and led 7-5 going to the 9th inning. But the Cardinals, as we have seen them do so many times in recent years, just could not be put away as they rallied for 4 and eventually won 9-7 with Jason Amott setting down the Nats at the bottom of the 9th. Nats out, Cards advance. And here they are about 11 months later in a much different situation. Just a game over 500 on the outside looking in the playoff race. And Davey Johnson said, you know, last year everything went well. Everybody did great. There wasn't much adversity. And he didn't use the word adversity, but when he talked to us before the game, he kind of said, you know, they had some bumps this year. Were they prepared for those bumps, or did they just assume because they're so talented that everything would go well?
I think they assumed that because they're so talented that everything's going to go well. But, you know, the Braves did make improvements, but the Phillies didn't. And, you know, you would have thought that, you know, there would be a lot more easy wins in this division because of what the Marlins did with their fire sale to Toronto, because of, you know, the Mets and you know, their inability to be able to spend money on product on the field. So yeah, you would have thought 90 wins for this team would have been a cakewalk because of their pitching, but it didn't work out. And you could blame whatever you want. I go back to the what I just said. You can't expect to get there every year. The time you do get there, you better go all your eggs in that basket, try to win it then. You better go all in.
Base hit Zimmerman, first and second, nobody out. Well, a lot of us went all in. We are asked every year to make our predictions preseason on ESPN.com, and Buster and I were among the vast majority who picked the Nationals to win the National League pennant. Two smartest guys in the ballpark are Crucky and Oral, because they didn't answer. They didn't send back the email, so you guys don't have to live with predictions for 5 or 6 months like the rest of us do. But
you answer your emails from ESPN?
Yeah, I do.
Wow.
You know why? Because I'm employed by them.
Oh. There's Jason sitting. Oh, look at him. He's versatile. You can watch a game end hit.
And Worth is some kind of frustrated. First and second, nobody out. First pitch swinging, and a lazy fly ball to center. The people were picking the Nationals this year like people were picking the Angels last year, and that didn't work out so well either.
Is the curveball that they want to see John Neese use some more. He hung it, but when it's a strange pitch that they don't see very often, sometimes you get away with the mistake.
And that's what he did.
He did.
You got a hot hitter, one of the hottest in baseball. You hang one,
usually gets banged.
Yeah, the best you could hope for is the pitcher who threw that pitch is a double down the line.
Jonathan Neese really working around trouble. There's another curveball. Working around trouble. He's given up 9 hits through 4 1/3, but he's only given up 2 runs. sliding attempt by Duda in foul territory, but he can't make the catch.
Usually when you slide like that, that's one of those, because you're close to the tarp, you can't really slide head first, try to make the headlong dive to get more extension and catch that ball. You try to slide feet first so you don't break your neck on the tarp sitting down there. Someday they'll figure out a place to put that tarp where it's not on the field of play. You would think with all the new ballparks and the technology we have. Of course, St. Louis tried to do it, and they tried to bury it, and it ran over Vince Coleman.
Exactly. Right before a playoff game.
Yeah. So that didn't work.
You got flagpoles and monuments and hills and tarps at various points in baseball history. Some still.
While you're rehabbing your foot in the offseason doing nothing, why don't you come up with an idea how to do that?
Neese elevates the fastball, and it gets Desmond for the second out. Let's go down to Buster Olney.
You guys see John Neese taking some time. When I was over in the Mets dugout, some of their players are telling me the humidity tonight is an unbelievable bear, and they really think it's a factor when it comes to the two pitchers. Guys?
So how's that shirt and tie working for you down there?
Thanks a lot, Dan.
We're lucky up here. We got little fans. We got it better than Buster. But it is in the 80s, and it is humid tonight.
Neither pitcher is wearing sleeves. I used to wear sleeves even when it's this hot because it soaked up the sweat and it didn't affect your grip then. You had one big sweat band going down your arm. Might seem like, how in the world can you wear long sleeves on a hot, humid day, but the sweat doesn't drip down your arm and get on your grip and make the ball slippery.
Right-hander Craig Stamina's up in the Washington pen. Mets leading 4-2, bottom 5. We've seen Neese mix it up a little more recently. Curveball changeup of the first 2 pitches here to Ramos.
I really like the way he's throwing the ball. He's got so many weapons to go to, and he doesn't have to quite locate as well. He's gotten away with some mistakes because he is mixing his pitches. This is a part of the game that the Mets really are not worried about. When he gets in a jam, he competes. You heard Terry Collins in his interview with Buster talking about that. The part they worry about at times is sometimes he loses concentration and gets into these jams too much.
Deep center. Den Decker with just enough room as Neese gets out of trouble again. 2 more men left on by the Nationals. 3 back in the American League wildcard race because Tampa Bay lost again. Oakland just swept the Rays, so the Orioles are 3 back of Tampa, and the Indians and the Yankees are just 3.5 back. A big win for Cleveland today as they avoided a sweep against Detroit. Mike Aviles hit a grand slam in the 9th inning off Joaquin Benoit in a 4-0 win. It was scoreless in the 9th until Aviles homered. Cleveland beats Detroit 4-0. So you've got 3 teams within 3.5 of the second wild card race as we enter September. New pitcher for the Nationals. Out of the bullpen comes right-hander Craig Stammen. It's a lot of work for Washington. A lot of decisions. He's got 7 wins, 6 losses, already 72 2/3 innings. Ohlendorf goes 5 innings, gives up 4 runs on 9 hits, didn't walk a batter, didn't strike out a batter. As Travis d'Arnaud leads it off for the Mets. d'Arnaud is the young catcher that the Mets are very excited about. John Buck traded to Pittsburgh. d'Arnaud's battled injuries at times over the last couple of years. Has swung the bat well the last couple of nights. And Buster, what do the Mets like about this young man?
Well, not only the offensive potential, Dan, but also the pitchers are raving about the way that he frames pitches, especially in the lower half of the strike zone. He told me before the game that an instructor, Sal Fasano, really helped him with that. And he likes to watch Russell Martin because he feels like he's a great model for doing that type of thing.
d'Arnaud was traded from the Phillies to the Blue Jays organization in the Roy Halladay deal, from the Blue Jays to the Mets organization in the R.A. Dickey deal, so traded for 2 Cy Young Award winners. And he's one of the reasons why the Mets feel the future is bright. Maybe a couple, 2-3 years away, but they feel like they've got a good young nucleus of talent, more pitchers. But d'Arnaud's a guy that they're really counting on behind the plate.
Buster and I spent about 20 minutes, the young man gave us in front of his locker, and he was telling us a lot of the different things he learned from Sal Fasano. And one of the things was also not only in receiving the ball, but watching hitters and learning hitters' swings and the adjustments they make. And he'll need to make some at the plate, of course, as a young hitter, but if he can catch and play defense, then he's going to be fine. They'll give him time to let the bat come.
It seems like one thing he needs to get rid of, he's got a lot of movement in his hands, especially at the point of getting his load. That hand starts twitching forward a little bit, that top hand, and it looks like it takes him a long time to get back to where your hands need to be in a good hitting position.
Juan Lagares takes a strike. Lagares is grounded out and doubled.
You mentioned all the assists Lagares had early on. He hadn't been a full year in the big leagues. Boy, inning ago, just a base hit to right. He almost threw the runner from first out at second with the gun.
Don't see that. It doesn't feel like you see that as much as you used to. You go back to Dave Parker and Ellis Valentine and Dwight Evans and that era. There were a lot of guys.
Vladimir Guerrero,
Jesse Barfield. There were guys with cannons for arms out in right field.
Andre Dawson.
Yep. Now, this young man's got 12 already this year.
Just coming off the Little League World Series where I was the last couple of weeks, just saw him throw the ball into second. That's why I picked it up. The Little Leaguers try and do that.
It's the best outfield arm you guys saw. Played with, played against.
Wow. Mark Whitten.
Mark Whitten had a great arm.
Yeah.
Bounce to the third. 2 down. Now Ryan Zimmerman making the play. His throwing has been an issue of great concern at times this year. It appears that it's gotten better over the course of the season, but 19 errors on the year for Ryan Zimmerman, and the vast majority of them throwing errors, and most of those, it seems, come on the routine ground balls as opposed to the tough plays.
Yeah, and believe me, that seems to me right here a lot better than he was earlier, because earlier in this season he was getting pretty much that same motion, but there was a hesitation about right when he gets the ball at the top of his head. There was a little hesitation before bringing it forward, and that caused him to cast some balls. That was a lot better than what he was earlier in the season. A lot better.
A liner into left field for a base hit for Matt Dendecker. Now 2 for 3, including his first big league home run earlier tonight. Omar Quintanilla comes up 1 for 2. I mentioned Ruben Tejada, who was the everyday shortstop last year, and at the outset of this year, he is down in the minors right now for the Mets. And the Mets have to figure out this position. They got a lot of positions they have to figure out for next year. They've got uncertainty at the very least. You would think in all 3 outfield spots. They got to figure out who they like of who they have and where they should plan. Maybe first base. Who knows about Ike Davis, arbitration eligible, coming off a very disappointing season. Who knows about shortstop? Obviously a healthy David Wright's at third. D'Arnaud looks like the future behind the plate. Daniel Murphy at the moment is the second baseman. He can play different spots, but he's been the everyday second baseman now for a couple of years. But other than that, it's up for grabs.
Yeah, 5 position.
Yep.
They got a lot of money coming off the books, and they have to decide when they want to start timing spending the money too. Do they want to start it next year, or do they want to wait 1 more year?
And there you can see how little offense they have gotten out of so many different positions this season. Yet the amazing thing is, overall on the year, the Mets are 7th out of 15 teams in the National League in runs scored. Now they're barely ahead of 8, 9, 10, 11, but they're there kind of in the middle of the pack, and you just wonder how they've done it.
Tip your hat to that man right there and his coaching staff. Terry Collins, the manager, and his future is up in the air. They say he's going to be evaluated as they move forward, but I mean, who could do a better job than what he has done with this Mets roster?
Desmond, good range, inning over. To the bottom of the 6th, the Mets lead the Nationals 4-2. It has not dampened the spirits of Teddy Roosevelt tonight here at Nationals Park. He celebrated a big win in the President's race tonight. Presented by Taco Bell. Dan Schulman, John Kruk, Oral Hershiser, Buster Olney, Nationals Park. The Nats trailing the Mets 4-2, and Washington 7 back of Cincinnati for the second wild card spot. Arizona lost today to San Francisco. The Diamondbacks 6 back of Cincinnati for the second wild card spot. The Reds lost today as well. They were beaten by the Rockies. John Neese works into inning number 6. And starts Tyler Moore, the first baseman tonight for the Nationals, with a strike. Neese 3-0 with an ERA under 2 in 4 starts since coming off the DL. As Oral mentioned, had a little shoulder discomfort, partial tear in his rotator cuff earlier this year, but has pitched extremely well since coming back, and has always pitched extremely well against the Nationals franchise. He has never lost to the Nationals. Has an ERA of 2.37 in 6 career starts against Washington. Even better than that here. I don't know, Oral, were there any visiting ballparks where you just felt comfortable on the mound? You had success there and you felt good?
Yeah, you feel good, and you look into the target, and the whole surrounding makes you feel comfortable, and you hit your spots.
Broken bat base into center field, and Moore's 2 for 3.
Well, 5 out of the last 6 hitters, he has started people off with a curveball, and he's had a pretty good one tonight. He's starting to use it a little bit more. Terry Collins wants to see him use it more. Dan Worthen, his pitching coach, wants to see him use it more, and he's kept it down. He's thrown it for strikes. He's thrown it to lefties like Harper right there, and he's getting some use out of the pitch. Put it in the back of the hitters' heads. Keep him off that fastball. That cutter that he just threw there, the broken bat base hit, exceptional pitch also.
First pitch swinging, Scott Hairston fouls it off. Hairston denied a fly ball and an RBI single. Nationals have certainly had their chances. They've left 7 men on through the first 5 innings, including 2 each in each of the last 3 innings. Neese has minimized the damage. He has scattered, as they say. 10 hits through 5+ innings. Washington's just 2 for 10 tonight with runners in scoring position. And that's been a problem most of the season for the Nationals. They're hitting just .240 as a team with the runners in scoring position. Davey Johnson in what appears to be, certainly appears to be, his last year as manager of the Nationals. When we talked to him before the game about it, there are some names flying around, but it sounds like this is going to be his last year. And sounds like Davey will take a good vacation or 2 and then figure out what he wants to do in baseball. And he's certainly going to be able to stay in baseball if he wants to. Had a very good career as a player, and arguably even a better one as a manager. Swing and a miss by Hairston. 1 year way back when, Davey Johnson hit 43 home runs in a season. He also won 2 World Series, was a 4-time All-Star. And as Mets fans will remember fondly, he managed the New York Mets to the World Series championship in 1986. 2-time manager of the year, once with the Orioles, and then last year with the Nationals.
He's made a very large contribution to baseball. He's an outstanding baseball guy. I don't think he'll be completely out of the game. Somebody's going to lure him back. Can only fish so much.
Pinch hitter Steve Lombardozzi, batting in the pitcher spot, tries to get a bunt down, but he is thrown out as the runner advances to second with 2 down. And Ian Kroll, the September call-up just came up today, is now up in the Washington pen. Let's take a look at Hot Zone, brought to you by T-Mobile.
You take a look at Bryce Harper. Remember that the blue is below 250 and the red is above 350. And this year he hasn't been as good against left-handers. Only the middle of the plate has he really owned with left-handers. The rest of the places, the lefties have got him out. So, John, that's how he's kind of in between when the lefters are on the mound?
Yeah, it seems like it. But again, they have a book on him now. They're pitching him differently than he was. He's changed his approach against lefties. You know, and his first at bat, he got the base hit off John Neese, and it was a cutter right over the center of the plate. So it speaks to why he hits 350 with pitches down the middle. You know, we have to keep remembering he's 20 years old.
Exactly.
And just because you've been on Sports Illustrated, just because you've gotten X amount of dollars to sign, doesn't make you a veteran. It doesn't. It's a learning curve. I don't care how talented you are. You learn as you go. And in 3 or 4 years, he's going to have this game where he needs to have it in his mind. And you're going to see one of the better players in baseball. But until he gets that, he's going to make some mistakes.
It's going to be fascinating over the next, say, 15 years to track Harper, Trout, Machado, Puig. I mean, we're talking about 4 exceptionally talented young players, all with very different personalities and very different backgrounds as well. Just to see where they wind up, because they've all got the talent to be superstars.
Well, not only the talent, but they have all produced at the big league level. I mean, there's a lot of guys in AAA and AA that are as young as they are and have that kind of talent, but they just haven't had the opportunity yet, but produced.
Well, when Trout and Harper came in the league, I made mention that they could be the Bird and Magic Johnson. And you look at the personalities. Trout smiling, happy, seems to go along with the LA thing like Magic Johnson did. And Bryce Harper's the Larry Bird. Oh,
that's not good.
Didn't look good. Did he stumble or did he hurt himself?
Yeah, that's a back. That's a back. I mean, he didn't turn his ankle. He didn't roll his knee over. It didn't hyperextend anything. I think that's to me, like it's more of his back. You see where he's stiffened up his back a little bit.
Remember, he's been battling a knee issue for much of this season ever since he ran into the wall earlier this year. This is back in May. And he was just so bound and determined to catch the ball. He never felt the warning track, never saw the wall. And it didn't look like at the moment this happened, the knee would be a problem. But this is when the knee trouble started. And for about 6-7 weeks, he was in and out of the lineup because of the knee problem. Missed about 30 games with it overall. And now we have the Mets trainer out, along with pitching coach Dan Worthen, to visit John Neese. And that's going to be all for the left-hander. Terry Collins is out talking to home plate umpire Jerry Davis, as they will be forced to make some changes. We will sort it out when we come back. The Mets to the pen with the lead here in the 6th. New York leading 4-2, and as we get an opportunity to show you what just happened after the last pitch that he threw.
It's a little hop right there, and you're not sure what it is, but looks like it could be something with the leg, and end up looking like he has a calf cramp on the left side.
Those are awful.
They're hard to get out.
Wow.
But if you're a Mets fan,
yeah,
what they've gone through.
Yeah. During the commercial, the Mets fans were holding their breath.
So the new pitcher is right-hander Scott Atchison, who put him in the 7th spot in the lineup. Andrew Brown has come in to play right field and bat 9th. Wanda Lagares has moved from right to center, so Matt Dendecker is out of the game. strike to Anthony Rendon. And a curveball is skied in the air to shallow right center field to end the inning. So the Nationals threaten again, but leave them on again, and Nice and the Mets still have the lead. Sunday Night Baseball presented by Taco Bell is brought to you by Xerox. With Xerox, you're ready for real business. And the Home Depot, more saving, more doing. That's the power of the Home Depot. Teddy Roosevelt with his 9th win of the year here in the President's race at Nationals Park. He never won ever until last year. But once he broke through, Crucky,
he's on fire.
Yeah, he is.
It's like breaking a long slump. Tell you what, I feel sorry for old Abe Lincoln. He did get crushed up against the stand.
It looked like full contact roller derby where the grounds crew came out and gave him a hard time.
It's great. Ian Kroll on to pitch for the Nationals.
You're a hockey fan.
Yeah, it's great.
I want the President's race to be full contact.
It's more violent than the sausage races in Milwaukee, I think. That's more of a gentleman's race that they have there. Kroll just recalled today as the roster's expanded. Andrew Brown, who came on the double switch, leads off the 7th inning for the Mets. Hits are 10 apiece. The Mets are up 4-2, trying to sweep the series. The Mets have won 4 out of 5. Crucky, you ever play for a team that was kind of in the Mets? I mean, you must have. Everybody does. You play for a team that was in the Mets spot. And how do you go into September in this kind of a situation?
Well, usually the teams I play on, you just watch Tony Gwynn win a batting title and see how many points he'd win it by. But, you know, you got to convince yourself about, that every game's the 7th game of the World Series, because sometimes it can be a drag coming to the ballpark. And, you know, I know people are going to be critical. Well, you're getting paid. You got to. Yes, we show up. Yes, we played. But sometimes it's difficult mentally to get into a game when you're 30 out.
But if you're playing the team that's leading your division,
then you're gung ho. We played his team in '88.
Yeah.
And Gibby came in and we won the first 2 games of the series. And Gibby said, "There's no way this team should be on the same field with us. We're far more superior than them and whatever." And we ended up sweeping them.
Art Kirk Gibson said that?
In 88?
Yeah, and we kind of.
I'm going to call him.
We kind of held that one against him. At least that's what we were told he said. He might not have said it. Someone might have told us he said it. But
who was your skipper that year?
Larry Boa.
Yeah. Larry would never lie to you.
No.
Brown flies out to right. By the way, Oral, I don't know how closely you read the Elias notes today. This is the 30th anniversary of your major league debut.
Oh, that was quite a day.
Listen to the first three guys.
Three up, three down, and then I got
in the first inning. He's pitching into Montreal. Listen to the three hitters that he faces: Gary Carter, Gary Carter, Al Oliver, and Tim Wallach. Those are the first three hitters he faces in the big leagues.
But then I got knocked out the next inning.
According to the notes, you ran into trouble in the next inning.
Ran into trouble.
Giving up 3 runs, only 1 earned without retiring a batter before giving way to Joe Beck with an 8-3 Expos win.
So I left with a 4.5 ERA after my debut. No, not even that. A lot worse.
What do you remember about the walk to the mound, the 8 warm-up pitches, being handed the ball, that kind of thing?
When they got me up in the bullpen, I can't remember warming up. That's how much adrenaline was going through my body, and I think I was loose after about 3 or 4 pitches. So it was absolutely amazing to get into, to the big leagues. And I was not an early one to the big leagues. I was 25 years old, a little bit short of my 25th birthday.
There's a base hit into right field for Young. He'll be held to a single by Worth, and then Gary Carter standing there in the batter's box as your first hitter.
Yeah, and Steve Yeager is the catcher, and he puts down a sinker away, and I threw the sinker away, and Carter fouled it off. And Steve Yeager takes the ball from the umpire, walks it about halfway out, and he throws it to me. And he goes, "Whatever the blank that was, throw it again." So I threw it again. He grounded out to Bill Russell. Bill Russell threw the ball to first base, and I was a big leaguer.
And Al Oliver?
Al Oliver grounded back to me, and I can't believe I caught it.
And Tim Wallach?
Struck him out.
Wow. And then we won't talk about
it. And then a bunch of doubles and a bunch of
some balls fell in.
Yeah.
A couple broken bat bloopers.
Did you break in opening day, or were you September call?
Yeah, no, opening day.
You were an opening day.
Dodger Stadium, Fernando pitching.
Wow.
I didn't play. I pinch ran, got thrown out stealing.
Welcome to the big leagues.
Wow, that just showed you what kind of team we have.
Well, there's a lot of guys that are going to have
when I'm pinch running and stealing, not very good.
I don't know. I'm going to look it up. You stole some bases. I know you like to.
Did.
You did steal some bases.
I did, but not that day. It was a hit and run, and Carmelo Martinez was hitting. Gary Templeton was on third, and Carmelo didn't swing. Yeah. And I was a dead duck in I guess it was the 8th or 9th inning.
You stole 18 bases in '87, your first full year. Your first big full year.
Yeah. Good first step.
Lazy fly ball to left, 2 down. Now you did get, I don't want to belabor the point, you did get thrown out 10 times. So.
Yeah. Well,
not such a good second step.
Larry Bowa wanted me to get a 20-20 season. 20 homers, 20 stolen bases. And I fouled the ball off my toe and broke my toe. And the kids just kept telling me, run, run, run. I was just getting thrown out by further and further and further. Finally, I just said, that's enough. We're stopping here.
You'll take your 2018 season.
I wasn't worried about the stolen base thing.
Mets up 4-2, top 7.
I just remember sitting in Dodger Stadium and looking at what the 20-tier stadium they have, and it was packed, and Fernando Mania, and it was just I couldn't fathom my first thought was, what am I doing here? Second thought, why am I here? Third was, since I wasn't starting, I was hoping, I hope I don't get in the game, because that was nerve-wracking.
Dude, you hit 309 as a rookie and 313 your next year. You weren't overwhelmed at all.
Yeah, but I didn't want to. The first game I might have hit 306. So I'd probably been 0 for a bunch.
Safe at second is Young with his 34th stolen base of the season.
Well, he got a good jump. We're talking about Crucky stealing bags. You got thrown 18 bags. He got thrown out 10 times, but he got a good jump right here.
Well, he got a good jump, and the ball actually is a good throw that it bounced, because Rendon just all he had to do was catch and tag with the speed of Eric Young Jr., like his daddy.
More stolen bases since the All-Star break than anybody in the major leagues. That's his 18th since the All-Star break, and his 5th game in a row with a stolen base. 2-0 on Saturday.
You know, we talk about, you know, getting here. How long did it take you to figure out that you belonged here? It took me almost a year.
Yeah, it took me longer than that because I was spot starting and someone got hurt and I was platooning and I was only playing against lefties. And Marvell Wynn was playing. We had 4 outfielders and 3 of us were left-handed hitters: Tony, Carmelo Martinez, and myself. And or Tony, Marvell Wynn, and myself.
Yeah, Carmelo was a right-handed batter. Yeah.
And I think Kevin McReynolds. We had 5 outfielders and.
So one of the lefties had to play against lefties.
And I had to play against lefties. So I played against lefties and Marvell played against righties. And that's where it helped a lot because I got comfortable hitting against left-handed pitchers. But you know, it was probably, oh man, probably about 2/3 of the way through my second year where I thought, because I didn't play the first month of my second year, hardly at all. And then I started playing regular, you know, come, you know, May. And I started putting up some good numbers, and I thought, wow, you know, maybe I can do this.
Lucas Duda takes a strike. 2 on, 2 out. The Mets leading here in the 7th.
That's what a lot of this young Met lineup is trying to figure out. You know, they're just getting up here. They're trying to earn a job. They're trying to impress the general manager and the manager and the staff. And then in the midst of doing that, they're trying to feel comfortable up here.
Base hit into left field for Duda. Young around third. On his way home, will beat the throw easily, and the Mets lead 5-2.
Left on left situation.
Well, and this is beautiful, and I really, this is what Tony Gwynn taught me from the day I signed in the minor leagues, was, you know, look to go the other way against lefties, and that's what Duda did right here. And you know, with the speed of Eric Young Jr., you know, you can hit a line drive to left field, 1 hop or 2 hop to left field, and he's going to score because of the speed and his ability to run the bases and cut the turns. But, you know, Hairston, when I was watching Hairston in between innings, it looked like he had trouble throwing. I mean, he was playing catch with Bryce Harper in center field, and he threw a couple that weren't even close to him, bouncing them.
A pitching change here into Washington as the Mets have added a run and now lead the Nationals 5-2. The ballpark, go to MLB.com/Sunday to find special ticket offers. MLB.TV celebrating 11 years. Watch every out-of-market regular season game live on your favorite supported mobile and connected devices with MLB.TV Premium. Visit MLB.TV for details. How about the Mets? Trying to sweep Washington. Got another run this inning, up 5-2. Davey Johnson back to the bullpen for right-hander Ryan Matthews making his 27th appearance of the season, and he will face the catcher Travis d'Arnaud, who had 2 hits Friday, had 2 hits last night, but d'Arnaud is 0 for 3 so far tonight. A hanging breaking ball for ball 1. Confirmed now that John Neese did leave with a cramp in his left calf, so that's about the best news possible if you're a Mets fan, especially given all the other things that have gone on recently.
Watch the hand movement right here, d'Arnaud. This is what I was talking about. See how the hands come set, they drop, but then he has that, his right hand cocks the bat, his right hand in front of his left hand, and you see how long it takes him to try to catch up. That ball was by him.
Over the top of the breaking ball, 1 and 2.
He really got the bat wrapped, and he's got that cock going in his hand that gets that bat over the barrel of the bat over in front of his body, really. And then you have to go all the way back around to catch up.
And a ground ball to third, a lead runner forced, inning over. 7th inning stretch here for the Washington. Jason Worth coming up in the bottom half. The Nationals are down by 3. They dug themselves too deep of a hole. It's hit hard. It's caught by Harper. Stendecker his first major league home run. Back at Nationals Park. The Nationals hoping to be playing baseball in October. They've got their work cut out for them. 7 out of a wild card spot right now and trailing 5-2. As we go to the bottom of the 7th, the hunt for October heats up. Part of the iShares by BlackRock hunt for October. A doubleheader for you Wednesday on ESPN. The Tigers and Red Sox leading their respective divisions. The Rays, who were just swept by Oakland, still in possession of the second wild card spot in the American League. They'll take on the Angels. And then 1 week from tonight, we will have the Dodgers and the Reds presented by Taco Bell, and we expect Clayton Kershaw, if all goes as planned, to be on the mound for the Dodgers that night.
He of an ERA under 2.
Was it 172, I believe?
Wow. Cy Young favorite.
MVP candidate? Maybe.
Yeah.
Zimmerman sends a fly ball to deep right center, but Lagares is there to make the catch, 1 down. I don't know that there's any one position player in the National League who's an obvious choice right now for MVP. I think Yadier Molina might have been in the lead until he got hurt. Now he's back hitting well again. Andrew McCutchen. Paul Goldschmidt plays for a team that's 6 out right now, but he's had so many game-winning hits, and he's got some big numbers for Arizona. And then, let me ask the hitter and the pitcher, does a pitcher deserve to be considered for the MVP? Hitter?
No.
Hitter says no. Pitcher says
no.
No.
They're not on the field enough.
And I know he can influence the day before and the day after and all that, but that's still only 98 games.
Pitchers have their award.
They do.
Pitchers have their award.
They shouldn't take ours.
Even Verlander didn't deserve his a couple years ago?
No, no. And I made a big soliloquy about this, and then he came on the air and said, well, apparently you and I disagree. I said, well, obviously, if you think you should have won, but...
1 ball, 2 strikes. Scott Atchison facing Jason Worth here in the bottom of the 7th. Who would be your National League MVP if it ended today, or you can't answer that yet?
It could come down to me who wins the National League Central. If it's, you know, McCutchen, if the Pirates win, McCutchen. If it's a Cardinals, Yachty. But, you know, Yachty's gotten a lot of help though with his team. The Beltran's having a good year. Alan Craig, of course, having a great year.
Let's go down to Buster Olney for more.
And guys, one statistic that's really going to work on behalf of Andrew McCutchen is wins above replacement, WAR. He is by far the leader in the National League at this point. And I can tell you, as someone who's voted for the MVP award in the past, that writers will look at where teams are in the standings, and there's no question about it. Among the players that you listed right there, I think McCutchen is helped out by the fact that the Pirates are such a great story. The one thing that Verlander had going for him 2 years ago in winning that was the Tigers' great 1-loss record in the games that he pitched, 29-5. As good as Kershaw has been this year, the Dodgers have not had that in the games that he's pitched.
See, and Buster has said that to me before, and I respect that opinion. But whatever their win-loss record is in Kershaw's game, say it's not 29-5, or say he's made 26 starts and it's 17-9 or 16-10, it might be like 8-18 without what he's done. He's been that good. As Desmond has his second hit of the game.
There's a part of Yadier Molina's game that people can't evaluate with WAR, and that's putting the fingers down and being the leader of that pitching staff. Andrew McCutchen gets WAR credit when he's out there in center field and tracking balls down, but Yadier Molina, shuts down the running game, but he also calls the game and has guided that young pitching staff, and that has not been this veteran, solid pitching staff. He's had a lot of young people to bring on board.
Joe Kelly getting another win today.
Didn't we have in 79 co-MVPs with a Cardinal and a Pirate?
We did.
Stargell and
Hernandez. You're right.
Maybe we can have it again.
Dodgers, by the way, are 16-12, I'm told, in Kershaw starts, which is amazing for a guy who's got a 172 ERA this season. They don't score much for him.
But they like to watch him pitch.
Yeah.
Not swinging the bats on that day.
I don't know if the Reds are going to like it next Sunday night. But.
Apparently up there when Kershaw's pitching, or hitting, when the Dodgers are hitting, they should be up there not watching Kershaw pitch on tape again.
When we were there for one of them where he was not only the pitching, he was the offense too on opening day against the Giants.
At one point in the game, he had a chance to throw a shutout and hit the only home run and drive it in, and then they got, what, 3 later in the 9th?
Yep.
Yeah, they ruined it for us.
Would have been a 1-0 through 8 or something. Through 7, I think it was.
Wilson Ramos 1 for 3. The Nationals 11 hits with only 2 runs.
Who do you think should win, Dan? You've asked us.
I think Molina's the most valuable player in the
For me, yes, too. I think even the body of work, I know you're not supposed to count the whole career, but boy, I think it's time he gets the recognition.
Because like you said, as that pitch gets away and up to second on the wild pitch goes Desmond, one thing you can evaluate, he impacts 12 other players on his team every game. He impacts every pitcher on that staff.
Every pitcher on that staff, every finger he puts down in a decision, and they will tell you, Mike Matheny will tell you, the pitchers will tell you that he is calling the game. And he's the one that's involved with them emotionally and mentally.
And he takes an aspect of a lot of teams' games off of them with the stolen base.
Yeah. Yep. I almost think how well he throws detracts from other aspects of his game. We focus so much on how well he throws. We don't focus enough on other defensive things.
Yeah, he came up with such a great, the pickoff play at first base, of course, guys trying to steal on him, throwing guys out at second, but he has become about as complete a catcher as I've ever seen, as far as being able to do everything.
And I know they don't evaluate clutch stats very much, but the clutch hitter that he is too. Not only the great offensive force he is now, but the clutch hitter that he is.
And not only, does he have to work with the pitchers, like you said, but this is
another wild pitch.
Yeah, he's not getting close with those.
And he's second in the league in hitting.
Yep.
And when you talk to the Cardinals, he positions the defense too while he's out there. So much is put on his plate for 2 reasons. 1, because he can do it, but 2, because they trust him enough that he knows what's going on during the game, as opposed to what's, the guy sitting in the dugout. And how many rookie pitchers have he had to hold their hands and nurse through a season?
Base hit into right field for Ramos. And it's 5-3.
Now, the Nats are going to get off the deck not only in this game, but for the rest of the year. They got to run the table. And 5-3 down here, this is where they're going to have to do it. It's late in the year, and it's late in this game.
Dan Worthen, the pitching coach for the Mets, on his way to the mound.
That's just a spinner.
Cement mixer.
Pretty good there. Look how his head's down in the ball. Stiff front leg. The nice V with the arms. I mean, but after Atchison bounced a couple of those, looked like sliders or forkballs or whatever they were, you knew if he threw another one, he was going to overcompensate and leave it over the center of the plate.
Here we are in the bottom of the 7th. The Mets lead the Nationals 5-3. There has yet to be a 3-up, 3-down inning in this game. A strike to Tyler Moore. And another.
Fastball down the way is still a good pitch, isn't it?
It's a real good pitch. Speaking of Yadier Molina, called an awful lot of fastballs low and away. I think that pitching staff in Atlanta does a lot of that too. sets a whole lot of things up when you can hit the low and away corner with your fastball.
Got it. Inning over. The Nationals get one off Atchison at the end of 7. The Nationals are back within 2. Sunday Night Baseball is presented by Taco Bell. Sometimes you gotta live Mas. And in part by the all-new 2014 Chevrolet Impala, which proudly supports the craft of baseball. Learn more at ChevyBaseball.com. Sunday Night Baseball here on ESPN2. And the pesky Mets trying to sweep the Nationals up 5-3. Going to the 8th inning. Dan Shulman, John Crockwell, Hershiser, Buster Olney here at Nationals Park. And the new pitcher is right-hander Eric Davis in his 2nd stint of the season with the Nationals. Another September call-up, just recalled today, making his 6th appearance. And a strike taken by Juan Lagares. Lagares 1 for 3, doubled back in the 4th inning. The Mets hit Ross Ohlendorf hard. They had scored a couple of runs in the first, including a couple of doubles. There was a home run in the 2nd, a double in the 3rd, a double in the 4th, a double in the 5th as well. Ohlendorf gave up 4 runs on 9 hits over 5 innings in front of a crowd of 28,995 tonight here in D.C.
And every batter put the ball in play.
No walks, no strikeouts for Ohlendorf, who threw 95.
Wasn't hitting his spots tonight, and he wasn't able to get his changeup in the place that he really wanted to, and he really didn't throw enough breaking balls for me.
Catches the outside corner to strike him out.
Talk about the effectiveness of the low and away fastball. Sometimes it's a good pitch that sets other thing up, and sometimes if you can dot the corner like this when the ball comes back, you can end the at bat without the batter swinging. Just locked him up, looked like it was going to be away, and caught the outside corner.
Pinch hitter is Justin Turner, batting in the pitcher's spot, which is now the 7th spot in the Mets lineup. Turner hitting .259 in the season. He's done a lot of pinch hitting, but as you can see, has not had a lot of success pinch hitting, just 4 for 30. base hit over a leaping Tyler Moore into right field. What's at stake here with the Nationals, as we mentioned, are running out of days on the calendar. They hadn't been playing very well until the Mets got here and beat them last night and Friday night as well. The Diamondbacks lost today to San Francisco, but the Reds lost as well. So Arizona is 6 back of Cincinnati. The Nationals are 7 back of Cincinnati at the moment. The Cardinals beat the Pirates today to salvage the final game of that big series. So those two teams are now tied atop the National League Central. Here's Omar Quintanilla, 1 for 3. Washington hoping to take advantage of a number of sub 500 teams. They swept the Marlins before this, in danger of getting swept here, and they'll continue to play sub 500 teams, all from their own division: Phillies, Marlins, Mets, over the next couple of weeks. But it gets tougher near the end. And 7 down with 4 weeks to go. They've left themselves not much margin for error. As you said before, if Cincinnati plays 500, Washington's got to go like 21-6 in order to catch it.
Hey, you figure that even if they go 500, Cincinnati, they're going to win 89 games. And how do the Nats get to 89 games? It's like 21-6.
You know, it doesn't happen often, but it happens. You and I were sitting in Tony LaRussa, well, the visiting manager's office at Wrigley Field 2 years ago, about 2 weeks later than now, talking to Tony LaRussa, and the Cardinals were 6 out, 7 out, whatever they were, with 2 weeks to go. And was it earlier? Tom Archer, our producer, correcting me. Thank you. Telling me it was the end of August, but the Cardinals were way out.
Oh yeah.
And Tony was pretty casual with it because they were way out. It just didn't look like they had a chance. And we were talking about all kinds of things, and then they got crazy hot and went all the way, made the playoffs, and won the World Series.
There's that man right there. Davey Johnson would love to cap his managerial career off with a unbelievable comeback for these Nats.
It has to be the perfect storm, though. You have to go and play the Marlins, and Fernandez has to pitch the day before you get them. You know, because you've seen him. This kid is fantastic. But and then you go to Philadelphia, if you get Cliff Lee and Cole Hamels, and they pitch it up to their capabilities. Right. That's a tough win against them. So, everything has to hit perfect for the Nationals. I'm sorry to get back in this wild card and have a chance down the stretch, even though they're playing sub 500 teams.
And you'd love to play the team you're chasing, because then you can control what they do as well if you can beat them. But the Nationals don't have the Reds on the schedule anymore. They've got all the teams within their own division, including one series with the Braves, and their last week is at St. Louis and then at Arizona. And of course those could be huge games for the Cardinals still, because they'll be theoretically battling to win a division. Tomorrow night against the Phillies, by the way, Cole Hamels and Steven Strasburg in a good pitching matchup.
And that's the wonderful thing about this second wild card team, is that it makes the value of winning your division so much greater to avoid that one-game playoff.
Atlanta and Texas learning that the hard way last year.
And actually also being rewarded if you're going to win your division by a large margin, that you actually do kind of get to rest up and get your pitching staff in order. Whereas if you've got to go to the last day of the season or last few days of the season to make sure that you're in and with a full series, you're not as equipped and not as in order.
A good inning for Davis. To the bottom of the 8th. Bryce Harper due up third. The Nationals coming up down 5-3. threes. We go to the bottom of the 8th here on Sunday Night Baseball. Sports Center comes your way over on ESPN after the NASCAR race concludes. Teddy Bridgewater and the Cardinals dominate Louisville all over Ohio. The Cardinals pull even with the Pirates atop the National League Central with a big win today in the Sunday conversation with Adrian Peterson. New pitcher for the New York Mets is the man with more appearances in the big leagues this year than anybody else, left-hander Scott Rice.
A pretty solid job. Other than the 27 walks to the strikeouts, that's the only part I don't like, but he has been very durable.
The guy who began his professional career in 1999, and it took him this long to establish himself in the majors. He worked at it for a while. And the obligatory rally cap sighting for this young Bryce Harper fan. Harper due up third this inning. Scott Hairston leads it off. Base it into left field for Hairston. Here's Denard Span, an everyday center fielder for the Nationals, not in the starting lineup tonight. As Davey Johnson stacked his lineup with a right-handed batter, Span will come off the bench, and you can see he's working on a 14-game hitting streak. Lefty-lefty matchup here with activity in the Mets pen, both bullpens in fact right now. Gonzalez Herman up for the Mets. And a strike at the knees. And Fernando Abad is up for the Nationals. So you figure Rice gets Span and then Harper, and then Terry Collins goes to the pen for the right-hander. How tough was this, Crucky? Not necessarily as a pinch hitter, but as a left-handed batter, knowing in the 7th or 8th inning you were going to see a lefty out of the pen that you didn't really know that much about, probably.
Well, that's why pinch hitters who hit for a decent average, 250 or better, are considered exceptional pinch hitters because of the difficulty you have. Yeah, you know, there's guys. I'm sure Terry Collins said, okay, you know, look at their bench, Denard Span. We want to make sure we have a lefty for Denard Span.
Base hit up the middle. And the Nationals have the first 2 men on here in the bottom of the 8th.
This is where you would think with Rice he'd have to maybe change some things up. First pitch is a fastball down in the zone. He gets a strike. Then he tries to come in with the fastball. And then he comes right back at it with another fastball middle in. And that's the pitch that the lefties can handle against a left-handed pitcher. You know, you throw 3 pitches basically the same speed. A veteran guy like Denard Span's going to figure it out and you know, he might not get a hit, but he's going to put the ball in play somewhere hard. Let's put it this way, better not do this to Bryce Harper.
Although Harper has struggled against lefties this year, hitting just 190. Tying run at first, go ahead run at the plate.
The corner infielders are in for Bryce Harper. You think as hot as Bryce Harper's been, that there's any chance in the world he's going to bunt right here? There he goes. Now Terry's telling him to go back. Probably play behind the runner. Duda didn't hear him, though. He better get this quick.
He squares, and he does bunt. And they'll get him at first on a close play as the sacrifice moves the runners.
I'm wondering if that was called by Davey Johnson or Bryce took that upon himself.
I think Bryce did it on his own.
I mean, Terry Collins didn't even think he was bunting after the first pitch. He's throwing Lucas, move, back up behind him. Uh-oh, he's bunting. Made a really good bunt, too.
Rice, the pitcher, fell down, too.
Yeah, if he goes back and the sign gets there in time.
Here comes the right-hander, Herman. The tying runs are aboard for the Nationals here in the bottom of the 8th. Over the next 4 weeks. They can't afford to lose many. They've already lost the first 2 of this series to the Mets. They're 7 out of a playoff spot right now. They are threatening here in the bottom of the 8th inning as Terry Collins has gone to his bullpen again. For 25-year-old right-hander Gonzalez Herman from the Dominican Republic inherits a difficult spot. 2nd and 3rd, 1 out. 2nd stint of the season for Herman was called up in July to begin that 2nd stint with the Mets. He has stranded all 8 runners he's inherited. If he can get that number to 10, he's going to be a very popular guy at the end of this half inning. Hairston's at 3rd. Spans at 2nd. Rendon is the batter. Zimmerman and Worth after him. And a slider for a strike. Sharply hit to the shortstop. They'll get the out at first, but a run will score to make it 5-4.
Good positioning there.
The ball's hit hard.
Pull it right at him.
That's why the Mets had the infield back. They're going to give up the 1, but not both.
And you see Rendon right there upset. Even though he drove in a run, he got the handshakes from the teammates. He knew he hit that ball pretty hard. When you hit one hard, you like to see it drop in.
Ryan Zimmerman 2 for 4.
Zimmerman's in a really good place. You got first base open. You think, oh, they could pitch around him. But Jason Worth on deck, one of the hottest hitters in baseball. So you're going to get some pitches to hit. There's that guy right there.
At the knees with a slider, 1-1. A lot of people here thought it was low.
25,000 umpires had it low. K-Zone had it low too.
25,001.
Quintanilla. Throw home. Tie game.
But Denard Span had an unbelievably huge lead with 2 outs, and they're not really holding him on. You see the lead, you see the secondary lead. His momentum was going to third when that ball was hit past him, and Quintanilla, when he saw that turn, he just kept going and not even having to slide. But look at the big lead by Span and the great turn, no hesitation. Third base coach waving him on the whole way. That's just great instincts. Great lead. You know they're not going to try to pick you off in that situation.
Quintanilla would have had a hard time throwing him out at home if he never threw the ball to first.
He would have, yes.
Base hit and an RBI. Tie game, and here's Worth. Worth is 1 for 4, doubled and scored in the second. Third leading hitter of the National League. Outside, ball 2. Davey Johnson has his bullpen busy, including his closer. Rafael Soriano is up.
Dan, this is one of those games. Nats come back and win this. That's part of a highlight film. They go on to make a run and get in the playoffs. They go back. Remember that game on September 1st.
Big cut and a foul off by Worth. One in the 7th, then 2 here in the 8th to tie it. 15 hits for the Nationals, 13 hits for the Mets. In the bottom of the 8th inning, there has still not been a 3-up, 3-down inning in this game. And there has been at least 1 hit in every single half inning in this game. Not only a base runner in every half inning, there's been at least 1 hit in every half inning.
And that's from a lineup of the Mets on one side, a bunch of no-names that put an 11th spot up last night.
Yep, they had 17 hits last night, the Mets did. They have 13 more tonight. The Nationals have 15 tonight. The Nats have left 10. The Mets have left 7. Right center field, and it's getting to the wall. Zimmerman is getting the wave. Relay to the plate. Not in time, and the Nationals have the lead. Rally cap's working, especially when that guy's at the plate.
Well, Jason Worth has been pulling the ball all game today. And in this one here, you see Lagares playing in right center, but they're not playing that deep. They're not playing the no doubles defense. So they had a longer run to get to that ball in the gap, allowing Ryan Zimmerman to score all the way from first base. If they're playing deeper, then they can cut. They don't have as far to run. They get to the ball quicker, especially with Lagares' arm. With the throw in, they might have to hold Ryan Zimmerman there.
Ian Desmond. Thinking fastball, got changeup. Humid night. A whole lot of running for Ryan Zimmerman. He's worked up a sweat, but it's worth it.
And what a comeback for the Nationals. I mean, a game of consequence for them, a game of exercise, and show the general manager you can play at this level for the Mets.
Another changeup, 0-2. 3 runs here in the bottom of the 8th to turn a 2-run deficit into a 1-run lead.
What I've noticed about this outfield, it's a quick outfield. The outfield grass, the ball's flying through there.
Getting over 3 straight changeups from Herman to get Desmond, but not before the Nationals score 3 runs. Coming in down 5-3. Hairston with a base hit to lead it off. Span a base hit. Harper a bunt. Rendon drives in one on the ground out. Zimmerman the infield single to tie it, and Werth's double gives them the lead to the 9th. Nationals by 1. Bryce Harper moves from center to left as Denard Span stays in the game in center field. Adam LaRoche has entered the game at first base for the Nationals. And the new pitcher is the Washington closer Rafael Soriano. 35 saves on the season, a 2-3 record with a 3.65 ERA. It is the Nationals 6 and the Mets 5. A 3-run bottom of the 8th, changing this game. Top of the order for the Mets: Young, Murphy, and Satin. And a strike. Young, a couple of hits, a stolen base. He scored 2 runs. He is a threat. He is hot, and if he gets on, you know what he's going to try to do. He's going to try to advance any way that he can. He has tremendous speed. 0-2.
It's where the closer really earns his money. The big comeback, and you warm up quick, and you're on the mound, and you're trying to finish off the momentum of a team that is clinging to life as far as the race to get into October.
Jason Werth driving in the go-ahead run with an RBI double with 2 down in the bottom of the 8th. Swing and a miss, 1 down.
3 pitches, 3 strikes, no sliders. Pitch that he usually relies on, but there was a 2-seamer, a cutter, and a 2-seamer right there. Put Eric Young away.
Now a very tough hitter in Daniel Murphy. 2 for 4, 2 RBIs tonight, 13 for his last 24. Runs off the outside corner, ball 1.
Now this is no doubles defense. Check how deep Denard's span is. About 3 or 4 steps from the warning track in dead center.
They were playing a lot shallower when Eric Young was up because it was a no singles defense because he can steal second. But now that Murphy's up, they don't want any doubles with 1 out.
3-0.
If he throws that same pitch again, we got a tie game. I'm calling it. Can't throw a get-me-over fastball to Murphy and expect him not to deposit it or hit it hard somewhere. See there?
Bouncer. 2 down.
Oh, that didn't go out? It had to be a slider or something. It wasn't. It looked like a fastball right down the middle.
So the Nationals an out away from a somewhat improbable victory, considering they trailed the entire night. Scored 3 in the bottom of the 8th to take the lead. Josh Satin is the batter for the Mets. A chance for Washington to pick up a game in the National League wild card standings, with Cincinnati losing earlier today. It still looks bleak for the Nationals, but one step at a time. They would move within 6.5 of a playoff spot with a win tonight. Two strikes now on Satin. Bounces in the slider. Outside corner when the count is full.
Fastball away. If he hits it out the right, he hits it out the right.
Yeah, I don't think you can walk him. I think you got to go fastball away right here. Just keep the ball down, outer half.
Jason Worth and the Nationals with a come-from-behind victory against the Mets tonight to salvage the final game of this series and pick up a game there on Sunday in the National League wild card race with Cincinnati losing earlier today to Colorado. The Nationals are now 6.5 back of the Reds for the second and final wild card spot in the NL. Tonight's Chevrolet player of the game is Jason Worth. It was his double in the bottom of the 8th that broke the tie, gave the Nationals the lead and eventually the win as he continues his torrid pace at the plate. And the Nationals will need every bit of it if they've got any hope of getting back into contention in the National League. A 6-5 win for Washington on a humid, muggy night tonight here at Nationals Park that saw the Mets lead the entire night until the Nationals roared back to take the lead in the bottom of the 8th. Major League Baseball continues on a Wednesday with a doubleheader of the Tigers and the Red Sox, and then the Rays and Angels on ESPN. This has been a presentation of ESPN, the worldwide leader in sports. For John Kruk, Oral Hershiser, Buster Olney, and our entire crew, I'm Dan Shulman saying so long from Washington, D.C.